This is the Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find the Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, the Monty Show is back and better than ever. Welcome to 2025, and boy, what a show we have for you with the college football playoff. Unbelievable, unthinkable storylines all over the place. How about Arizona State? How about Arizona State representing the Big 12 and damn near knocking off Texas? What should Quinn Ewers do? What should Jalen Milroe do? What should Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets do? Yeah, we got it all for you today on the Monty Show. As always, presented by the Advocates at theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business, where you get clear, risk-free advice 24/7, 365 at theadvocates.com. So much going on, obviously, with the Sugar Bowl today after the terrorist attack in New Orleans. You've got Georgia and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 1-point favorite. You're a bunch of suckers if you're betting on Notre Dame. We'll get into that. Yes, I am still a pessimist about the Fighting Irish. Yes, I am taking Georgia. No, I do not feel good that the game kicks off at 3 on ESPN. Why 3 o'clock? What, really?
Yeah, we couldn't move the other bowl games.
Are you out of your mind? Anyway, let's get right into it, because I'd love to hear you guys on the college football playoff. I am shocked that Ohio State dominated. That's the only word I can come up with without being too dramatic. Absolutely throttled, kicked the crap out of, dominated the Oregon Ducks. How surprised were you at the level of domination?
I mean, I thought that they just looked very prepared. I thought that they were ready for the moment. I thought that the criticism that Ryan Day gets all the time about not being a big game guy, not being a guy that, is prepared to win these bigger stage games. I feel like he put that to bed a little bit yesterday. Obviously, Ryan Day, generally speaking, is incredibly successful, but in this game, I remember, break on the show, we were all talking about, like, hey, is Ryan Day going to choke again? Does he have to win a national championship to save his job? All that was kind of the talk in the sports world. And I feel like he's changed that narrative now. So was I surprised that they won this game? Yeah, I was a little surprised they won this game by 20 points. I mean, you had a first half where Oregon doesn't score until I think like there were 40 seconds left in the half or whatever, right there at the end. So at that point, it was already a blowout. I mean, I think the first half ended 34-8 or whatever it was. So it just was domination. And I think when you look at Jeremiah Smith's behavior before the game and then backing it up on the field, I just think it's everything you want Ohio State to be. We have this situation where, Will Howard transfers in at the beginning of the year. K-State fan wants to say that he got booted out of the K-State program and he's terrible and he's Garbo. That take looks really bad today, right? That take looks awful today. The take of, hey, Jeremiah Smith, didn't show up when Ohio State needed him. Now looks pretty bad today, right? Because he did show up. I believe the stat line was 5 catches for 130-something yards and several, I think 3 TDs. Like that's crazy domination of the Oregon secondary. So for me, I was surprised at the level of domination. I was surprised at how prepared Will Howard looked and how prepared the wide receivers looked for the moment. And frankly, I have to say, I was prepared at how well Ohio State ran the football. I mean, I can't say it enough that, you have Henderson and Judkins just going off on the Oregon linebacking group. And frankly, those linebackers and those safeties at certain points didn't do anything about it. So I don't know if we, obviously we have to talk about the bye week situation and, these teams being at a disadvantage. But, at some point it comes down to, hey, we're playing the game now. You've had rest. It's not a rest issue, and it's time to execute, and Oregon just simply didn't.
Yeah, I think the bye weeks are a very interesting conversation in the college football playoff. None of the clubs that got the bye week seemingly thrived inside of that bye week. I think when you look at the bracket and you look at the teams that got the buys, very clearly, Penn State, again, what did I tell you before we went on hiatus? Yeah, they got a free pass. And they got a free pass. I think you look at Oregon. I think you look at Arizona State. Certainly, they both looked rusty. There's no question about it. Ohio State looked ready to run through a brick wall, which they very clearly did. I'm impressed as I can be with Ohio State. I don't know how much more you can even say. I don't know that you need to polish the Ohio State Buckeyes any further than we have here. That was a dominant performance. It's arguably the best college football playoff performance of the year so far.
Yeah.
I think Will Howard, K-State hater, I get it. I get it. You lost the best quarterback on your roster, and now he's going to the semifinals of the college football playoff. That's got to hurt. I totally get it. But Ohio State didn't win this game on offense alone. They won it because their defense is dominant, and they won it because they played downhill. They won it because they were faster and more physical than Oregon was. And as disappointing as Oregon's performance was, I think you have to tip your cap to Ohio State and say, yeah, Ohio State inflicted a lot of damage on Oregon. They broke their want to. They broke their spirit. And while I don't believe that Oregon quit, I think Ohio State took their want to. And now the question is, can Ohio State win the whole damn thing? I think this is a huge question. And I don't know why they would not be one of the favorites to do so. I am, again, a pessimist when it comes to Notre Dame. And I see a lot of the love for Notre Dame. I understand it. I don't believe that Notre Dame has been tested at the level they will be tested this afternoon in New Orleans. I think this is easily the best team they faced. I do not think that the quarterback situation with Carson Beck damages Georgia at all. I've told you on this show all season long, I don't believe that Carson Beck is a championship caliber quarterback. And I look at Texas and Ohio State. I think Ohio State's the better team. I look at Penn State against Georgia. I think Georgia's the better team. This is going to come down to who is better, in my opinion, between Ohio State and Georgia. And I'll honestly, I'm a little shook at Steve Sarkisian's play calling. That interception by Quinn Ewers in the fourth quarter was unforgivable from Sark. I don't know what you were looking at. You need to burn the clock. You need to control the football, and you're out here throwing passes down the middle of the field. And a bad pass at that. Can't blame Sark for the bad pass. You can blame him for a bad play call, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that Texas, if we're looking at this Texas ASU game, the thing that really is a bit shocking is, like you had mentioned, ASU comes out really slow, right? I mean, obviously, first possession, you kick the field goal, but you find yourself down a couple of scores. And so then, what happens? You go to the half, you do the classic Kenny Dillingham, you give a speech, you get your players going, people start to settle in, and everybody before the half was ripping, scat for his behavior on the sideline and yelling at his teammates and puking on the sideline. And they go to the half, and then they come out and they look like a little bit different of a team. And this was my point about Arizona State. In the second half, they come out and they play like they've got nothing to lose because, frankly, they have nothing to lose. And so what ends up happening? Arizona State's playing free football. They're getting after it. They're having a good time with it. They're building momentum. And then Sark's doing exactly what you just outlined, right? Bad play calling, passing when you should be running. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a situation where the kicking conversation somehow flips. Heading into this game, what was the conversation? Well, Arizona State's got kicking issues, and that's going to come back to get them.
And they did.
And then what do we get? A veteran kicker with Texas, unable to close the deal for Texas when they asked him to. So we go to multiple overtimes, and then what do we get? We get a situation where you're 4th and 13 for Texas, and Quinn Ewers does what Quinn Ewers does. So, I just think that Texas needs to learn how to close football teams. That's the issue.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that Texas is a very good football team. But they've got some real moles on their face. I mean, if you look at Quinn Ewers, this is clearly his last ride at Texas. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about Ewers to the NFL or Ewers to Ohio State or wherever he might end up. Quinn Ewers, I think, is who we know him to be. He's a guy who will make a mistake. He's a guy who will put a ball in a bad spot. It's going to get intercepted. But Steve Sarkisian has to handicap that. He's got to make better play calls. He's got to be able to consistently run the football, even with all the injuries that Texas has had at the running back spot. They've got to consistently run the football to have any chance to win a national championship. And at this point, from what I saw out of this Ohio State defense, I have no belief that this version of Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers is going to be able to beat that Ohio State defense. I think that's as simple as I can make it. And Will Howard in that rushing attack at Ohio State are playing at a very high level. You've got, in my opinion, the best wide receiver core in the country, as we've talked about. I don't see how Ohio State loses to Texas, but let's be very clear. Steve Sarkisian has to do a better job calling the game because he's got a dominant defense. They inflicted damage on Cam Scatterbo, and they still had to go to overtime because Steve Sarkisian did not call a very good fourth quarter. The first three quarters, he didn't miss. The fourth quarter, hey, maybe he feels pressure. Maybe he is what everybody else is. Steve Sarkisian had a terrible fourth quarter, and it damn near cost Texas a chance at a national championship.
Well, and I think to that point, even with the play calling issues that Sark clearly had in that fourth quarter, he still had his team in position to win the ball game in regulation.
Because, and this goes back to Penn State versus Boise. Talent is going to win these games. Coaches can get in the way. Totally agree with that. Quinn Ewers to Golden, that throw, the ball's on that guy. I mean, what do you say to Quinn Ewers? And yes, I still sit here scratching my head this morning wondering, what was Arizona State thinking sending the entire football team on a blitz when all you needed to do was keep the ball in front of you?
Yeah, and I think
it's a terrible defensive play call. But the ball's on Quinn Ewers to make that throw. That was an unbelievable play.
Well, and I think when you listen to Kenny Dillingham, after the game, taking accountability for the idea that, hey, I had us in cover zero blitzing on that play and Quinn checked out of it and I got to do a better job as a head coach. I love that from Kenny.
Huge mistake.
It is. And I think, Kenny Dillingham is someone who obviously is 34 years old. Is obviously one of the youngest, but one of the most successful head coaches, in his tenure so far for his team. But, I think the hard part is that Kenny Dillingham and the way he coaches is, with all due respect, it's the old saying of like balls to the wall, right? We're just going to go as hard as we can.
Sure.
We're going to go for it on fourth down. We're going to get after it. And I do feel like that cost them this game on that 4th and 13 play.
Here's Dillingham talking about it after the game.
To be honest, it's all on me. We're in a cover zero look. Late in the play clock, Ewers did a phenomenal job checking out, recognizing the cover zero look, checking into a max pro, and I didn't have the ability to get out of it. And that's on me. So we left our guys ISO'd in cover zero into a max pro there. I gotta go into that game with an ability to get out of that call. And like I said, there's a lot of things that I got to do better to help our guys to win a football game. That's one of the many things that, as I reflect, I got to be better because our guys played good enough to win.
Yeah. Did you play good enough to win? You probably didn't. If we're being honest, that first half against Texas, that defense against Texas, I didn't feel like they played well enough to win. I felt like when Quinn Ewers ran that ball in for the touchdown, that game should have been over. Yeah. Texas, with all due respect, Texas kept Arizona State in the game. Arizona State belonged there. And I think Kenny Dillingham talked about this as well after the game. But this idea, if you look at this question right here, did Arizona State save the Big 12? I don't think there's any doubt. Because if Arizona State had gone the way of SMU and Boise State, rolled over, got that ass whooped, this would have been a very ugly morning for the Big 12. But the Fighting Dillinghams did exactly that. Cam Scatterbo came out and proved he's the best running back in the country. Kenny Dillingham is arguably the most inspirational coach in the country and a guy that I think every player wants to play for, a guy like Kenny Dillingham.
Right.
But I also think this is an indictment again on the Big 12. And I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, and you guys were all tweeting at me about how, I'm too hard on the Big 12 and I'm too hard on Utah and I'm too hard on Oak State. Kenny Dillingham came in here and kicked you in the balls the entire season, and you didn't have an answer. And when I look at like West Virginia, because West Virginia clearly sent a message that the mediocrity of the Neil Brown era wasn't good enough, right? I look at Kenny Dillingham, who has every reason to be a 4-win team. NCAA violations, 2 words, Herm Edwards, right? Like, you have every reason to suck out loud. And you just about went to the college football playoff semifinal. That is 100% about Kenny Dillingham and getting these kids ready and taking a guy like Cam Scadaboo, who now I think without question is going to be probably first 3 running backs off the board in the NFL draft. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be the first running back off the board for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think there's any doubt. But Cam Scadaboo turned himself into an NFL running back and solidified that last night. Because coming into that game, I think there were questions. After that game, who's got questions about Cam Scadaboo's ability to play at the NFL level? Because I certainly do not. And I think I look at Arizona State, and I think that Arizona State truly saved the football reputation of the Big 12 with that performance last night. Because I look at, did you guys see the numbers that Colorado and BYU put up? And I understand, again, it was a nothing, nobody gives a hot damn bowl. I completely understand that. Look at these numbers, boys. That's 8 million viewers.
Yeah.
That's 8 million viewers. And what that tells you is people care about the biggest brands in the Big 12. But is Arizona State that? And the answer is no, they are not. Did this game yesterday make them a big brand in the Big 12? No, it did not. Yes, Arizona State saved the Big 12. But you look at these numbers right here with BYU and Colorado, that's, to me, the biggest statement in the postseason, that 8 million people tuned in to see BYU and Colorado in a meaningless bowl game. That tells me that there is strength and power in Big 12 football.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, the Big 12 needed the Arizona State story for sure. And
no doubt.
For next season, if you said, hey, like, who are not the best teams? I'm not saying who's the best team. I'm saying who are the biggest brands in the Big 12? Yeah, I would like to think it's probably 4 teams. It's probably, you have to have ASU there because of how far they got this year and how much success Kenny has had and his ability to recruit and the way he just goes about that process. So he's going to have talent. Love the way he coaches. So ASU's got to be one of the bigger brands. I don't know if they're the biggest, but I would have Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and at some point, I would think Utah comes back to life. I get it. They had a horrible year. But I would think at some point, Kyle Whittingham's going to correct that ship. So, those are the 4 teams that I would look to in the Big 12. And I would say, hey, these are the 4 staples in this conference right now. And, if we can pick up, if K-State can bounce back, or if Tech can, keep improving, or, if Rich Rod can get it going, like, maybe you have some other teams get in on that. But I just think that Arizona State, really help the Big 12's case when it comes to talking about, like, when inevitably everyone gets together and talks about the college football playoff format and should the Big 12 have more of a seat at the table? Like, dude, the Big 12 and ASU was a 4th and 13 missed call on defense away from beating the SEC and sending Quinn Ewers to either the NFL or probably Ohio State. Right. You're talking about if they play cover 2 or even cover 1, you're not making that play because the safety's there.
And how many chances do you want, by the way?
Yeah. Well, seriously.
Texas can't kick a field goal.
Yeah.
They missed 2 of them.
Epic.
Terrible play call out of Sark. Anyway,
By the way, I will say Texas ASU, best game we've had in the college football playoff so far. Not even close.
And I think some of this belongs, this conversation I think is significant because before we get to the other games, I do want to talk about this right here.
Yeah.
Because we had massive fights over this on the show.
Right.
You guys riled and railed against me and said that I don't know what I'm talking about. And should SMU and Boise State have been in the college football playoff? Maybe. Sure. No. Okay. Whatever. This has to get fixed. And the way you fix it is exactly what we've talked about. You can't just hand conference championship teams first round buys. You can't do. Boise State had no business having a first round bye.
Totally agree.
They had no business having a first round bye. And now I don't think it would have mattered because, again, I'm just telling you, Boise State is not. If there was ever, friends, if this was ever truer than this morning, I don't know when it would have been. Penn State just simply had bigger athletes than Boise State. And Ashton Jeanty had some moments in that game. That was the biggest ass kicking I've ever seen that kid take.
Yep.
And if you go back to what we've talked about on the show, which was Ashton Jeanty beat up on a bunch of dudes that had no business being on the same field as him all season long. They didn't play anybody outside of Oregon, which was what, week 2. Then you show up against Penn State after a bye week, and you were never in that game. And we're sitting here talking about Drew Aller, who's an average-ass quarterback any way you slice it. He carved you up.
Yep.
He carved you up, plain and simple. What did I tell you about Indiana? Indiana didn't belong in the college football playoff. But Indiana certainly was more deserving of a first-round bye than Boise State.
Yep.
Right? Like, you look at SMU, and I know, oh, Monty, you just hate SMU. Okay, cool. They got that ass whooped.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not hard to say, hey, BYU would have put in a better performance than SMU did.
But don't open up the can of worms.
Well, but here's the deal though. Like at some point we have to be able to say, like, if we're going to sit here and say that these two teams got exposed, and let's call it 3 teams because I think Indiana got exposed too. At some point we have to say, well, again, they shouldn't have been there. Like, at some point it has to be.
But they were. And we can, I think the hard part here is, like, everybody's talking about Alabama, for instance. Do you really think that's the same team that was on the field for their bowl game? Do you really think that's the same team that played November football? Do you think that's the same team that played all year at Alabama? It was clearly not. These big brands losing in meaningless bowl games means nothing. It means nothing. And if you think Travis Hunter's not going to be the number 1 pick in the draft because BYU thumped Colorado, you're out of your mind. These bowl games, while significant, and I understand NIL deals make these kids play, do you really think that somehow, some way Cam Ward should have played all 4 quarters of that game? Come on. When we look at the college football playoff, we can sit here and we can be revisionist in history. I'm not here for that today. Boise and SMU were in. SMU and Boise State should never have been anywhere near the college football playoff. Okay, great. The system's in place. They got in. Boise shouldn't have had a first round bye. Simple as that. And Penn State shouldn't have gotten the free pass of SMU and Boise State. You have to tweak this.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you put soft teams in.
Yep. Well, you're always going to have a G5 in.
Yeah.
Always. But you can't have multiple G5s in. And again, I think when you look at the bracket and you say to yourself, okay, we can sit here and we can play the game of who belongs in and who doesn't. Right? But you've got to change. You've got to change the early rounds because, folks, these teams right here, outside of Boise State, you're going to get Texas and Ohio State, Penn State, and I think Georgia. But even if it's Notre Dame, Did the outcome was it really impacted? Are we going to get probably 4 of the best teams in the country playing for the national championship? We are. Who here is really missing? Oregon got their ass beat.
Had their chance.
They're in no way, shape, or form one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yeah.
The college football playoff at the end of the day is going to net us likely the 4 best teams in the country. Does that mean that it should just be left alone? No. What it means is it should be tweaked. It should absolutely be tweaked so that you are ranking the teams 1 through 12. As simple as that. Not, hey, the 4 conference champions, the 4 highest ranked conference champions get a bye. You got to take that component out because that's bad for the on-field product. In no way should Boise State have had a first round bye.
Yeah, I just think that, what my opinion is that Boise State was a hype team. That's what they were. You had one guy who everyone loved and everyone got behind, but you had no business being on the same field as Penn State. And that's what's hard for me is I'm literally sitting here watching this game and I'm like, dude, we're watching a scrimmage right now. You're getting dominated up front on both sides of the football. Drew Aller's carving you up. Ashton Ginty, the greatest thing we've ever seen in running back country, somehow isn't the greatest thing we've ever seen in running back country when he actually plays P4 opposition. Like, who knew? I know it's rocket science. When you play NFL caliber talent in college football, you're not the same guy. And somehow Cam Scatterbo is the same guy. So to me, it's
Cam Scatterbo.
I look at it and Scat, the offensive MVP of the losing team, showed you what it really is. And it annoys me so much that Boise State fan and Boise State hater has disappeared off of Twitter. Where are all the Boise State sleuths? Because all I did, not over the weekend, but last week, is I was tweeting at people and I said, hey, by the way, bro, you were out here cursing at me on Twitter and now you're nowhere to be found. And that's my problem with the college football playoff. I don't like that we have a system that puts fans in a position where a team that has no business having a bye, and in my opinion, should not have gotten in. My opinion, I know they got in. My opinion is they shouldn't have gotten in based on who you didn't play and you lost the only team that matters. You don't have any way to say you should have been
Furthermore, there's no argument to be made that the ACC deserved 2 teams in the college football playoff.
Agreed 1,000%.
The Big 12, the Big 12 is the aggrieved party.
Yeah, can we now say that Colorado and BYU are better teams than SMU and Boise State?
I don't think there's any doubt that BYU should have been in the college football playoff. But games are won and lost on the field.
So
that's why I said we can't go back.
No, but
this is what I wanted to avoid, and you keep sucking me down the hole of death and pornography with these conversations.
But my point is,
hey Marty, look, the Mormons. They live right on and off the field. Put them in the college football playoff.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah, my point is that ASU put the Big 12 in a position to go to the SEC and say, hey, we're capable of beating you. We are. Yeah, we lost by 1 possession.
I mean, we didn't beat you, but we're capable.
Yeah, if that's the take you want to have, that's fine.
I don't.
The Big 12 is more than capable of beating the SEC.
I like the ASU story. If you can't get down with Cam Scatterbo, I think you're probably broken in your soul.
We've never had a puke award. But no, this is in 26 years, we've never had to be able to do this. And with about 7 minutes left, the media voted Scat as the MVP. And so the offensive MVP of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Scat, congratulations.
I mean, he is a Cam Scatterbo. Oh, I'm sorry. Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah.
My bad. Scat is.
Yeah. How does Scat not have a deal with Dodge already? Come on.
It's Ram, please.
Yeah.
I would love to understand if there's a more down home dude than Cam Scatterbo. I mean, throwing the touchdown, running for the touchdown, receiving the touchdown.
I'm for real.
I mean, throwing up everywhere, asking
Yelling
for an
at
IV.
his teammates.
I'm done with this. Okay. Like, that kid is what's right with college football.
Yeah.
But let's not go too far. Are they capable of beating Texas? I would say they're not. Because Texas had to miss 2 field goals, had to have terrible play calling, and Quinn Ewers throw a terrible pass. And granted, that gave Scat the opportunity to do Scat-like things. I should really stop saying that. It gave Cam Skattebo the opportunity to do what he did. But at the end of the day, Texas dominated you in overtime. And dominant, frankly, to get to overtime, that throw on 4th and 13 should never happen. Are you capable of beating Texas? I don't think you are. Not right now. Not right now. Because the physical beating that Texas put on Arizona State, yeah, I don't think that goes away anytime soon. So all I'm saying is, I love the Arizona State story. I am a huge Dilly fan. I think the guy is what every college football coach should be. And I think you have several coaches in this Big 12, whether it be Dilly, whether it be Prime, whether it be Witt, whether it be Kalani at BYU, that put the kid first. Those are the guys that are winning. Ryan Day, did you guys hear Ryan Day after the game last night? Listen to Ryan Day, and I've never said this on this show. So there is a first for everything.
This is Ryan Day we're talking about.
This is the first time I can say, yeah, I would want to play for this coach.
At the end of the day, we wanted to win a national championship, and the way that we got here wasn't what we expected. It wasn't what we planned for. But nonetheless, we had an opportunity to come back and play Oregon after we'd already played them early in the season. And that's the only thing that mattered. And the guys have been doing a great job of staying focused. The staff has stuck together, but the players have stuck together. And they're fighting to continue to stay together because, the winner gets to play together another week. The loser doesn't.
I want a coach that says the players stuck together. The players did the job. I want a coach that puts the player first.
Right.
If I'm 4 or 5 star high school Jimmy and I want to go somewhere and play, I'm probably going to Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you hate what Ryan Day said right there? How do you hate the fact that defense took a bunch of dudes out of the portal and beat the hell out of Oregon? Beautiful chrome helmets and all.
But technically, and I love that they talked about this on the broadcast. If you look at their starting 11 on defense, 8 of those 11 guys are 4th and 5th year guys.
Right, but that's what college football is made of now. It's what Deion Sanders has done so well. Deion Sanders came in and put a bunch of dudes on his defense, right? But what did he do? What did he do on the offensive line? What he did on the offensive line is he recruited the number 1 offensive tackle in the country out of high school, put some veterans in there, and they came together. That's what the best teams in the country do. They go and they get Caleb Downs and they put them into a group of guys and they come together and they're a better defense for it. You use the portal. The best teams in the country, in my opinion, use the portal as a topper. They don't use it to win championships. They use it to finish off a championship product.
And my God, did Caleb Downs eat Oregon, dude.
Man.
Bro.
The power and the... I don't know. I thought it was a virtuoso type performance.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've ever seen any Ohio State football team dominate the way that they did. They absolutely dominated Oregon.
Yeah, and I love that they talked junk before the game and then went and backed it up. That's what I'm talking about.
Listen, I will continue to say that Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in the country. That cat, that's one of the faster secondaries, and he ran away from him. I mean, unbelievable. And if there is a better story in the college football playoff than Will Howard, who every K-State fan orally victimized.
Orally victimized.
Yeah. Orally victimized.
A lot.
Right? Like Olivia Benson style. Orally victimized him. Oh, we don't want him here. Avery Johnson's a better quarterback. Yeah, how'd that work out for you, kid?
No.
Yeah, no, it didn't work out at all. I'm telling you, Will Howard in the biggest game of his life, 17 of 26, 319 and 3 touchdowns. And the fact that Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, I mean, broke you off for 170 yards.
Yeah, can you check Jeremiah Smith's line as well while we're at it?
7 for 187 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 7 receptions and
Man.
only played, I think the stat was like 20 minutes of the game or whatever.
Man.
Actual game time.
Yeah, Troy, live it. Eat right now, dude. Like, live it. Just win, baby. I don't care what the score is. Go Buckeyes, go.
Dude.
If you're a fan of the Ohio State this morning, I'm telling you.
Stay hard.
Today's the day.
Did
Because,
Ryan Day save his job?
Unquestionably. Ryan Day saved us. That's all over with now. That's all over with now. There's like this Quinn Ewers story. And more momentum going to Quinn Ewers, going to the Ohio State. More and more and more. And you look at Quinn Ewers, he can't go back to Texas. They will, I mean, quite literally, they will rip every seat out of DKR and beat Quinn Ewers with it. They do not want him back. Everybody wants the coronation of Arch Manning.
Yeah.
So does Quinn Ewers go be a backup in the NFL? Or does he go to a place that needs a quarterback who competes for national championships? I don't know, like the Ohio State.
You know.
Quinn Ewers be all right as a replacement for Will Howard?
And stop complaining about tampering, please. Can we be done talking about, oh, well, it's illegal and it's tampering and all this terrible behavior? And
because it's illegal.
What was it? Jim Mora Jr. at UConn saying that they're tracking people and, you know, they're going to call people out.
You're at
UConn.
You're at UConn.
Like, I get it. You want a bowl game, but just chill out.
Hey, Jimmy, you're at UConn.
You're at a basketball school, bud.
Quinn Ewers. If you're the Ohio State, is Quinn Ewers your huckleberry?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah.
And if it takes a $6 million NIL deal to make it happen, write the check today.
Yeah.
Put it in, but wire the money today. Because that throw to Golden on 4th and 13,
Savage, dude.
I want that guy as my quarterback.
Dude is unconscious, does not care about the implications of not making the throw, just simply made the throw.
And it's all of these unintended consequences. The whole Jim Mora Jr. thing and, there's tampering. Shut up.
I love that the guy is like,
Shut up.
We know who you are. We're keeping track.
Do I have to out you? I will dox you, bro.
Come on, dude.
Come on. Okay, you're at Connecticut, number one. Number two, this is what you asked for. This is what you, Jim Mora, and everybody else in the NCAA approved.
Remember when you were like, we can't recruit with the big dogs. We got to change the system. Well, the system changed, and now here we are.
Oh, God. Oak State James has entered the chat. James tweeting at me that 6 wins is a good year.
We're not doing that today. We ain't got time for that today. Too much other stuff to talk about.
How would you know if 6 wins is a good year?
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
Ewers is
1 sec here.
Ewers is going to the Ohio State. Will be favored to win the national championship next year. This cat, and I don't even know. I was actually using, X
via social media.
Yeah. I was actually using
were Xing
the Tesla meltdown machine.
Right. The Tesla firework truck, you know.
Okay, that's not funny. Not really. Anyway, so I would have to go back and find it.
Your
But
Twitter
here he is.
Wild.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You made comments on your show about bowl games that were irrelevant, and that I should want Oak State to go to the playoffs. Then you insult 2 teams that made the playoffs. Please explain tomorrow on the show how this makes sense. Okay. What part are you confused about when I said because James also said this is fun. He says, where is it? I need to find it in your. And I didn't know you used cocaine, James. And listen, I don't judge people.
Life choices, right? I mean, we all
adult
yeah,
here.
you know.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Listen, hallucinogens. If I were an Oak State fan, I'd want to be living in an altered reality.
Excellent strategy, sir.
Right? Hey, you do what you need to do with that snow, my friend.
Until one of us passes the fuck out.
I said about the Penn State game. Not compelling in any way. Two average football teams playing bad football, not compelling in any way. If Penn State did not have an overwhelming size advantage, they'd be trailing right now.
Because size does matter.
Stay hard. Which everybody on Twitter pretty much agreed with me. Unless your name is Oak State James, who said this is fundamentally why we disagree on things. Average is 6 to 8 wins, 9 to 10 wins are good teams. And if you can go 11-1 or 12-0, you have had a great year. Penn State and Boise State made the playoffs. They are better than average. Did you watch the game? You thought anything that we saw out of Penn State or Boise State was better than average?
Yeah, I mean, that was the hard part with the ass kicking that was handed out, is that Penn State wasn't doing anything crazy.
I'm telling you that if you're a fan of Oak State or any other team in the country, if you can't get down that winning 6 games sucks. Do you think the revolt that happened at Utah, where Utah fans are quite docile unless they're on Twitter, or excuse me,
X.
How many, do you understand the foundational changes that were made at Utah? Because winning 6 games is irrelevant. Who cares? Congratulations. You're going to the nobody wants to be there bowl.
The ReliaQuest Bowl.
Right. And I love that Colorado and BYU played a game and 8 million people watched. And I love that Colorado was furious that they lost that game.
Yeah.
The anger in Shedeur Sanders' face talking to Jordan Seaton was amazing.
Well, and it's not just that you lost. You got embarrassed.
I love it for BYU.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is they all had the same season. And why is that? Because they didn't go to the college football playoff.
Yep.
You're either in the college football playoff or just that's it. Season's over.
Hey, BYU fan, Kansas at home at night, and you go to the college football playoff.
And I'm also telling you, I get that the bowl practices are important. I understand for recruiting, it's important. Early enrollees, I totally get it. But again, I want when my football team, and trust me when I say Marcus Freeman will have Notre Dame winning 4 games next year like nobody's business. When my football team has the kind of year that, again, Utah has, I expect foundational changes. And what did we get? We got a completely different offensive staff that plays a completely different style of offense than Kyle Whittingham has ever had as a head coach. Because he knows what he was doing wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
You got one of the best backs one of the best quarterbacks in the portal, but found out that Isaac Asiata is back on the coaching staff at Utah. It's unbelievable, man. That's what I want my football team to do. I don't want to be Baylor. I don't want to be TCU. I want to be West Virginia, who didn't bring Neil Brown back when they arguably could have, shouldn't have. It wasn't good enough at West Virginia. But yet you want to argue, oh, well, 6 wins, Monty. Who cares? Who cares? Do you think K-State's happy with their season? You think Kansas is happy with their season? That they had to play spoiler late to have any meaning in their season? Kansas? You think they're happy with that? You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You're out of your mind, dude. Foundational difference would have been letting Witt go. You don't fire Kyle Whittingham.
No.
And Kyle Whittingham has done nothing to deserve being fired. Nothing. And I think this is a perspective thing. Obviously, I have been around Utah football for more than a decade now. I understand when I say that hiring Jason Beck and that staff and transfer portal quarterback and that all of that happened is foundational, fundamental, like a complete flip of a switch in the opposite direction.
It's a total flip in philosophy.
Yeah,
offensively.
I mean, it is.
You're talking about bringing a quarterback in who actually has a big arm, who actually can run legitimately. Like, I mean, that's a totally different conversation offensively.
Yeah, I just think it's completely different. But that's, again, a different day, right? Welcome to the Nightmare for $2. Good morning from a cruise ship.
Well,
let's go.
You're on a petri dish in the middle of the ocean.
Please do not get whatever terrible norovirus or whatever is ailing
the coronavirus,
ailing people's buttholes. Please,
everybody gets a test.
Dude, it's bad. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, sir. Cowpoke Ranch for $2. Don't worry, Oklahoma State will win it all in 25. I know.
I mean, that's clear. Clear.
Who's the rebound team in 2025? Who's the team in the Big 12? I think Oklahoma State just has not done anything to make you think that they'll bounce back. I think you had two very average hires at coordinator.
Yeah, I just don't have faith that they're going to be good enough in the portal and in recruiting to really make a difference. That's my concern for Oklahoma State.
And I do think that the portal and recruiting, if you are a good team, if you're a good program, you need that. You have to win big in that spring portal, because that's when you're going to have an idea of who you've got and what you need and where are you going to go to fill your gaps.
Right.
And so I think as important as the December window is, I am much more about post-football season when an Arizona State season comes to an end and their guys get in the portal or what have you. That's where I want to see what we're doing. But hey, listen, I think that if we look at the guys in the portal right now, I don't really know what we will see or how we will, because if I look at, and let's look at Oak State in the portal, right? Because they've had some activity, right? Like, I don't know that they have a guy of significance in the portal. I like Michael Diata is, as a defensive lineman, yeah, he's all right. I mean, he's okay, but does that change? Does that change anything that you're not really? I mean, you're getting a bunch of 3-star dudes out of the portal, which great, okay, that's fine. I just don't know that. I don't think that Oklahoma State has not done anything that's like, wow, you still don't have a quarterback. You still don't. I mean, am I the only one that's like, hey, shouldn't you be worried that you're losing like DeJon Stribling, the greatest wide receiver anybody's ever seen? Is that not supposed that he went to Ole Miss? Is that not something that you should be concerned about?
I would be,
because that cat's a baller.
Yeah.
You know, $2 from Alpha Buckeye. Big Ten postseason showing it's the best conference. I don't know that I would say it's the only postseason, in my opinion, that matters is your college football playoff teams. Ohio State and Penn State are both going to the semifinal. So yeah, I think that you're having a good postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think this upcoming round is going to be, I mean, assuming Georgia wins tonight, I'm just assuming that that's going to happen. But, if it's Georgia, Texas versus Ohio State or Ohio State, Penn State, you have your opportunity.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Is the Big Ten better than the SEC? Yeah, I'm not the guy to have that conversation, because I believe the SEC is by far the best football conference in the country. And when I look at the Big Ten, again, I say to you, Oregon is a massive disappointment. How do you can't have the best team all season in your conference get their doors blown off in the opening round, their opening round of the college football playoff.
Right. Yeah.
Can't happen. Penn State, great. Penn State, congratulations. You beat SMU and Boise. Ohio State, I think, is one of the best stories in college football because of what was on the line in Columbus. I think they're great. Is Illinois a great story? No. If you, again, what was the best story in the Big Ten all season long?
Indiana.
What happened to Indiana? Indiana looked terrible against Notre Dame. Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Could not.
Wasn't really all that close.
I think this is a one-team league, and it's Ohio State, that's the best. That might be the best performance we've seen in the entire playoff. Defense, offense, special teams.
It's dominant, dude.
In all phases. So do I think that, hey, this is somehow the best? I don't. Because, again, I look at, and a lot of people will point to Michigan, Alabama. I don't happen to think that. I think Michigan is a good story, maybe. I think what Sharon Moore is doing with a lot of adversity is a good story. Michigan's not a good football team. They are not a good football team. And I look at Illinois beating South Carolina. I don't think that's a big, it's a nothing bowl game.
Right.
I understand. I get it. It's a nice story to go to a bowl game. Nice story. Does anybody think that Illinois beating South Carolina is an indication that the Big Ten is better than the SEC? You really think that's an indicator? In the T-bar scandal in that game, you really think that's an indicator that the Big Ten is better than the SEC? One meaningless football game in December and they're better? Come on. I'm not buying that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. And I look at the SEC. Again, this is why I said to you earlier, Alabama's not the fight you want to have, because I just don't think that this Alabama team was one of the best 12 teams in the country.
Yeah, and I think the surface level of that is Jalen Milroe. I mean, his limitations limit the team, and I think that's tough.
Texas, Georgia, Tennessee are three of the best teams in the country. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee are better than, in my opinion, any team, with the exception of Ohio State in the Big Ten. And we're going to find out very clearly they're going to run their faces into each other.
I think the hard part with the SEC, or maybe not the hard part, but the upside for the SEC, or if you're an SEC fan, what should excite you is when you look at the SEC teams, you can sit there and you can say, okay, well, on any given year, we have those teams he just referenced, but then we've got 3-4 more behind that could pop off and have a big year. So, I'm talking LSU. I'm talking
Ole Miss is the great example.
Yeah.
Ole Miss didn't. Let's get one thing very clear. I love Lane Kiffin. They did not belong in the college football playoff. You lost games you couldn't lose.
Yeah.
Who are you, Alabama?
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it. Ole Miss is one of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. Who's better in the Big Ten? And again, I'm going to tell you it's Ohio State, right? After that performance. But who am I getting? Ohio State versus Michigan, or Ohio State versus Texas? Or Ohio State versus Oregon?
Well, I would expect Ohio State to be pretty similar against Texas. I think you're playing
You're
playing with a lot of momentum. It's week to week. You really shouldn't have some huge fall off.
I would hope so.
The only thing that I think is different between Texas and Oregon is all the misdirection that Sark runs in his offense. And I think Oregon,
unless it's the fourth quarter,
and you decide to go basic ass route combinations, throw it down the middle of the field.
Quinn, go ahead and throw a lofting lame jock up down the middle of the field. Okay, great. On 3, go. All right. Was that the play call?
I think so. Literally. But I think that, Ohio State, I don't think they're beating Texas by 20, but what concerns me if you're Texas is that you've shown this propensity to lose the big game, right? You've not shown the ability to beat Georgia, number one. And Ohio State, in my opinion, is as good as Georgia is. I think they've earned that after that performance. I think we can say that. And number two, you haven't shown the ability to close games. So let's say you are up 10 going to the fourth quarter. I have no confidence that you're going to close Ohio State. That's the problem.
I don't know how they did it, but if you look at Ohio State, have they gotten faster on defense? I didn't think that was possible. That's the fastest defense I've seen. And I thought, listen, it's been well documented. I think Texas is the best defense in the country. And excuse me, Ohio State. I don't know how Ohio State did it. They got faster.
Yeah.
Because they're not resting. They're not coming off a bye. They look sharp as attack. That defense yesterday, that's the best defense I've seen all season. That performance is the best defensive performance I've seen all season. They made Oregon's offense look bad. Not normal. They made them look bad.
Yeah, just basic, not able to do anything. And it's everything from the defensive line, getting after it in the run game to the manipulation with Caleb Downs is something that needs to be studied. Like the idea that they put him in the middle of the field, 15 yards down the field, and allowed their linebackers to force everything up the middle is crazy. I mean, that's doing that to Oregon is shocking.
Yeah. And I go back to who was a controversial team that got left out? BYU, Alabama at the time. The problem that I have with going back to the Alabama conversation is Ohio State. What Ohio State team am I getting?
Miami
never, in my opinion, was living dangerously and didn't play a great schedule. I think Alabama and BYU are probably the two best teams for this conversation. If I were on the playoff committee, I would have probably put Alabama into the college football playoff in that moment at that time. But I probably would have put BYU in. And I think I'd have put BYU in over Alabama. Because I just think that Jalen Milroe was not playing great football the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And I look at the way Jake Retzloff and BYU's offense operated. I look at whatever it is that's in the water in Provo, you're pulling dudes. Do you guys understand that you guys may have seen this and maybe you didn't see it? The very idea that BYU is pulling incredibly dominant defensive linemen from Utah. Did anybody see that BYU, who's already vastly improved on defense under Jay Hill, got Tanavasa from Utah, who is without question one of the most disruptive, dominant defensive linemen in the Big 12.
Right.
And he was Utah's best defensive lineman. And he was getting in the portal no matter what. And he ends up at BYU. Bro, that is, and then you get Andrew Gentry, who I think is a very, very good offensive lineman. Now you're cooking with gas, and you start looking at guys that are BYU's. It should have, in my opinion, had a stronger case than Alabama. But I understood the Alabama argument.
Mm-hmm.
I would have advocated for one of those two teams, and probably at the time we would have argued over which quarterback was playing better. And I am a huge Jake Retzloff fan. I need a quarterback who can stand in the pocket and deliver the football. Jalen Milroe can't do that. And I think I've even said this. If you want a quarterback to run you to a win, Jalen Milroe. If you want a quarterback to throw you to a win, not Jalen Milroe.
Right. Yeah.
Like this idea that he's going to the NFL, dude, you're going to be like an 8th day guy. Right? Like if we're learning anything, look at the Colts and Richard. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's not our first rodeo here.
Come on.
We know what's going to happen with that.
I think that you look at some point, strength of schedule has to be one of the overwhelming reasons to put a team in or leave a team out. And BYU should have been in. I think anybody in the SEC that's on the line should get the benefit of the doubt because of that schedule.
Yep.
I do not believe, in my opinion, Ole Miss or Alabama was one of the 12 best teams, but that's not really the discussion about putting a team in or leaving a team out.
Right. Yeah. It's strength of schedule versus, versus
who have
how
you
you've
beaten,
been playing.
strength of opponent, strength of schedule, which are different. It's amazing to me that so many people don't understand that the strength of your opponent versus the strength of your schedule are two different metrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's awfully difficult to overcome that. And now here we are. And at the end of the day, look who's getting it. Look who's going to the semifinals. It's Texas, who is, I think, one of the best teams in the country. And I know we argued over this.
Yeah.
Ohio State, who I've told you all year, I think is the most talented roster in the country. Penn State, I think Penn State got a free pass to the semifinals. I know that pisses off Boise fan, but we won't know because Boise fans in the witness protection program, it has nothing to say. But that's just me. Jeremy Severe, good morning. You forgot the Texas D-line that just got lost in the depth chart for BYU. Well, yeah, BYU has had a portal. And you are talking about Akana from Texas, whose first name I can never pronounce. Tausili.
Who the fuck is that guy?
4-star edge rusher going to BYU. I think Tanavasa is a disruptive, dominant defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be awfully difficult to deal with BYU next year. And, to all the people that were in the comment section, Jay Hill's leaving. Okay, well, last time I checked, Jay Hill's still employed.
Yeah.
They're on a mission at BYU, literally and figuratively. I think BYU believes that they can win this conference next year.
Yeah, as they should.
And you look at some of the, Jackson Bowers, without a question, is a loss. There's no way to overcome the fact that he's a really good pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
As a tight end, Jackson Bowers is a loss. But have they had huge losses in the portal? They really haven't. They really haven't. It'll be interesting to see what ultimately happens. But I really like where BYU is. I really like what Utah's done. I really like Colorado again. And I know that Colorado had a bunch of dudes getting in the portal, but is Colorado really losing any substantial talent? And I'm going to say they're not. And I'm going to say they got a lot of dudes coming in as per usual. I really like what Utah's done in the portal. And I know that not a lot of people pay attention to Utah in the portal, but Nate Johnson coming back to be a wide receiver at Utah is a really nice addition. You're not a quarterback.
Yeah.
You're a wide receiver, right? I look at some of the other, like Devin Green, the running back, is a really good addition for Utah. That's a really good pickup at running back. I just think you look up and down at the things that Utah has done in the portal. They've added some really big dudes. And I know that it's crazy that you hired Beck, but I think that your offensive line is going to be better next year.
Yeah, they're going in the right direction, and I think that,
I don't think there's any doubt.
Ultimately, the Big 12 needs these teams to, continue to improve, continue to use the portal, continue to push closer to actually being in contention for the college football playoff at the end of the season. And hopefully this coming year, the Big 12 can have 3 or 4 of them that are still in the conversation, in mid-November. Hopefully we can get, a Big 12 championship game that actually does decide who goes to the college football playoff. That would be great.
That would be great. We'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out.
Yeah.
And how long, and a year from now, are we having the same conversation about the playoff?
No, I think it'll get changed.
I think it's going to be changed significantly.
Yeah.
I think you are going to see that conference championships are still an automatic qualifier, but you no longer get a bye. And I don't know how many teams want to buy. I don't know how many teams want to buy, if we're being totally honest.
Right.
But we'll see. Oak State James for $5. For once, we agree BYU was a better pick over Alabama. Remember, BYU beat SMU in the regular season. BYU should have been in the playoff. Shoulda, coulda. Calford for $20. Calford,
Stay home.
Oh.
What's up, dude?
Appreciate you, dude. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Calford.
How many likes we got today?
Yeah, I'm terrible as a YouTuber. We have 26 likes on 1,011 views. So hit the like button,
Yeah, let's
please,
go.
if
Pick
you
it
have
up.
not. Please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Let's see. Boyd Lake, hello. BYU just got a safety from USU as well. BYU's living in the portal. Harry Austin, I thought that Coach Prime was leaving like Jay Hill was. Listen, I'm surprised. I think if the Florida State job had opened up, he would have left.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
That's always been our take, is that if Florida State opens up and comes calling, I think it'd be hard for Deion to say no to that. But I don't think generally he's looking to leave. I think that it would be a very, very specific scenario that it would take to get Prime out of there. But I still maintain dude is talking to everybody. I still think that, if a call comes in, he's going to have the conversation, mainly because he's a people guy. He builds relationships. He has those conversations and obviously takes some more seriously than others. So, I just don't think it's that controversial.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see, does Deion Sanders make this how is that not targeting in the Texas-Arizona State game? I'll be really interested to see how Deion Sanders, at the end of the day, what does Deion Sanders' legacy at Colorado look like? Conference champion? College football playoff berth?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's his next quarterback? Who's his next star? Who replaces Travis? Who replaces Shador? Does he because it's all well and good, as Prime has talked about, it's all well and good to have talent. It's what talent develops and actually gets on the field and makes a difference.
Yeah.
That for me is, I'm really interested to see that. And I'm really interested to see, what does it look like when you build a program like Deion does? Can you win a conference championship? West Virginia got Oklahoma's DC from the portal. I love the Rich Rodriguez hire. I'm fired up for that. The eye patch. Utah's 2024 offense was atrocious. It was. Can't wait to see how they do in 25. The defense will continue to be top 20.
Agreed.
As
and
always.
that's a conversation. You would think that the offense would be night and day different.
Have you ever had a quarterback like Dampier?
I don't think so.
I don't think you have. Stymie, the buy seems like fool's gold. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, I look at the buys. Arizona State wasn't the same football team. Oregon certainly was not the same football team. Boise, well, I just think Boise got beat by a more physically gifted, deeper football team at Penn State. I don't know that the first round buys were like, woohoo.
Yeah.
I
agree. Yeah. I don't think it was some advantage. I don't think it was some great thing. I think it ultimately was a detriment.
Will Georgia have the same hangover? And will you blame it on a quarterback change if they do?
Probably. I don't think they're going to have a hangover, though. I think Kirby is elite at having his team ready. And he's shown us that time and time again.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Jay Chapman, good morning. Mama called Bear Bryant. What do you mean? What did I miss? The stadium guy, James. Prime isn't leaving Colorado unless FSU offers more than $10 million a year. Otherwise, he's in a great position. You got to keep winning. Right?
Yeah.
Executioner.
Well,
Penn State can also outspend Boise with ease. What's that got to do with the
who cares?
The outcome? There's a simple truth. We all understand the haves versus the have-nots.
Yeah.
Boise State had no business being on the field against Penn State. They're not big enough. If we learned anything in the early rounds of this playoff, size and speed wins games. You look at Travion Henderson running down the sideline on that touchdown. You were never catching him because he was outrunning you. And that was Oregon he was outrunning. So what did we see with Ashton Jeanty versus Penn State's defensive line? He ran into a group that was far bigger, badder, and more physical than he had seen all year. And his offensive linemen couldn't compete. And I believe we even told you on the show, if you force him to run left, you're going to beat Boise State. And what did Penn State do? They did not allow him to run to the right side of his offensive line. And he had some nice runs through the A, no doubt about that. But it's not about outspending at that level. The truth is, and what people don't want to talk about is, would you rather play football if you're a high school, let's just call it 3.5, 4-star, if you're an 85 in the portal, or if you're an 85, because if we're talking about outspending, right? Outspending.
Yeah.
If you're an 85 in the portal and Penn State and Boise State have the same money to offer you, you're going to Penn State. You're going to Penn State because you're going to play on national TV every week. You're going to Penn State because you are going to have a better opportunity to go to the NFL at Penn State than you do at Boise. As simple as that. Like this Ashton Jeanty conversation. And again, I hate these conversations because it means we have to downgrade Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty is not only not the best running back in college football, he shouldn't even be in the same conversation with Barry Sanders. And yet, what did we do? Oh, Barry, Ashton. Look at the job, Ashton. Stop comparing the two. Barry Sanders played 12 games. Bowl stats didn't count. Ashton Jeanty is playing a much longer season, far more reps. Like
lesser competition.
There's no, and thank you. You beat me to the punch. There's no comparison between the level of competition that Barry faced versus Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, it's a different level of domination.
Come on. That doesn't mean that should Ashton Jeanty be the first running back off the board? I think he should. Is he the best running back in college football? No, he's not. He's not. And when I say, hey, should he be the first running back off the board? Yes. Why? Because his game translates to the NFL better than Scat.
Scat.
I think Ashton Jeanty's game, he is going to be a better NFL running back than Cam Skattebo will be, because you can't run your face into linebackers in the NFL the way you can in college. You can't play the style of football in the NFL that Cam Skattebo plays in college. You can't. Show me the guy, excuse me, show me the guy who's done that and had a long, successful career.
Yeah.
Those guys don't exist. They don't. Peyton Hillis, those guys don't exist. All they do is bounce around teams and collect injury checks, because you're not going to win physically trying to overwhelm an NFL defensive lineman. And I don't care how big you are as a running back.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that battle. Right? Ashton Jeanty is going to be a better NFL prospect, but that doesn't mean he's the best running back in college. Did you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with it at all. I think, you know, my honest take is I think it's insulting to Skattebo's game that people had Jeanty as a Heisman because of all the factors that we just discussed. I think that, you know, Skattebo's playing better competition. He you know, is every single week, you know, somebody that, you know, his team needs to win a ball game. I look at Boise State. Boise State didn't need Jeanty every single week to win a ball game. They just simply gave him that opportunity. You were playing competition that was very beatable through the air, but you chose to run it. Whereas Arizona State had to have Scat to win these ball games. And to me, I look at yesterday's game was a perfect example. Jeanty's not throwing that football. Ginty's not receiving it the way Scat does, right? What's Ginty do? Ginty's a guy who is making guys miss. That's his big stat, right? Yards after contact, right? Yeah, because all the Boise State fans want to roll out there. Oh, this is a guy who, gets hit and you can't tackle him. Okay, great. Awesome. I'm not taking that away from him, but that doesn't mean you're better than Scat.
Yeah. I
And by the way, on the goal line, I'd rather have Scat than I would Ginty. 100%.
I don't disagree with you.
100%.
I don't. The shocking thing was at the goal line, though. You brought in 3 extra offensive linemen, I think Arizona State did. Not only did you not run behind them, you ran left with Scat, and he got his ass blown up at the goal line. How many stops did Texas have in the red zone? Like 4, I think. It was amazing. Amazing. Matt Ritson, good morning, Matt. ACC was lucky, got second win, still terrible conference. ACC versus Big 12 is a really compelling conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's much of a conversation after this playoff.
I don't think so either.
I think the ACC is clearly the last football conference in the country right now.
Now, basketball? No, we're not talking about basketball.
Yeah.
Noel Ramirez for $2. But Monty. No, but Monty. Thank you. Thank you, Noel. Boise only lost by 3 to Oregon. Well, that's very true. Is Oregon a fraud now? Like, what do you guys make of this?
Yeah, what are we
Oregon
saying about Dan Lanning now? Should Dan Lanning be fired?
Stop it.
Is it time to...
Oh, my God. You have a
to,
poster of
dude,
him on your
is
ceiling.
It time to send dude out to pasture? Is the program terrible? Worst head coach in college football.
Are you kidding me right now?
Lanning right now?
Are you kidding me right now?
I'm asking the question. I mean, if we're going to do that to Ryan Day, we got to do it to Dan Lanning, right? If we're going to say, well, man, Ryan Day can't beat Michigan, but he beats everybody else. Well, now Dan Lanning can't win the big ball game, right? Hey, 13-0, can't win in the college football playoff.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, same measuring stick, dude.
Yep. The best back isn't even NFL eligible yet, but you can watch him later today. Number 4 on the Irish, the love machine. Listen, man. We'll see. Stephen Keel. John Riggins did. Derrick Henry does. Derrick Henry does not. And John Riggins played in a completely different era where defensive linemen. Do you guys understand? This is the argument I always love. Oh, man. Do you guys remember the 40s in the NFL? Bro.
But Monty.
But Monty's. Do you understand that 1980s defensive linemen are now smaller than linebackers in today's NFL? So John Riggins, poor example. And when you look at Derrick Henry, one of the biggest issues right now for Derrick Henry is he's not bigger and he's not running over defensive linemen. He is stiff arming and running over safeties and corners.
Yeah.
If you're not watching Hard Knocks, in-season Hard Knocks, you're crazy. The level of disappointment and the inability of Derrick Henry to run the football for Baltimore. And I would also remind you, who's the best running back in the NFL right now? Is it Derrick Henry or is it Saquon Barkley? It's Saquon Barkley. And if you look at Cam Skattebo, who already does whatever this is, do you guys notice that? He's got a neck tick. It's weird to me. But if you look at the way he plays, is he a do-it-all running back? Yes. But I also thought one of the best conversations we've had was on Cowherd the other day, where they were trying to compare Cam Skattebo to Christian McCaffrey. And for one of the only times ever, I thought it was really interesting that Cowherd made the point, Christian McCaffrey is a completely different athlete than Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo needs to run you over. Yeah. How many times did we see it against Texas? And it is admirable, and it is impressive. How many times against Texas did we see Cam Skattebo run his face into a defensive lineman and keep his legs moving? You understand that a lot of those defensive linemen would not be on NFL rosters. And that the linebackers in the NFL are running 4.5s. It's a different game at the NFL level.
Yeah.
It's a different game. Scadaboo was also sick during the Texas game.
Yeah,
you're on the field or you're not. Yeah, you're on the field or you're not. ASU should have had Scadaboo trying to kick field goals. Seriously.
Dude, you're not even kidding.
The stadium guy, if I had to pick a running back for the NFL, I'd pick Scadaboo over Ginty, which is why your teams don't win. You routinely make the wrong choice, James. Routinely. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, who by everybody's measure, I was looking at Mel Kiper's big board this morning. Has he changed and put Cam Scadaboo where Ashton Ginty is? Don't believe he has.
Well, isn't Ginty from Dallas? Is that right? Yeah.
Yes. He's a prototypical NFL running back. Ashton Ginty is everything you want. He's elusive. He's fast, and he's a guy who, even at this level at Boise State, what has he dealt with this year? A lot of injuries. So I'm telling you, you put a guy like Scadaboo in the NFL, and he's running his face into defensive linemen, because is he a guy that outruns the edge to get to the boundary? No. Where does Cam Scadaboo make his living? In the A and B gap. Yeah, he's a guy that bounces off of defensive linemen and linebackers.
Part of my thing with Scat though is like if you watch that game yesterday, he had moments. I don't disagree. He makes his living between the tackles. That's true. But he did have moments yesterday where he did, they pitch it out to him left and he ran around the edge there, I think he came up like half a yard short of the first down or whatever. But he outran the defender in that portion of it. Like, I'm curious, and I would say this about Ginty too. Like, you don't see a lot of throw it to the flat with Ginty. You don't see that a ton out of Boise State's offense.
No.
So for the Cowboys, and you have Dak, I sit there and I say, okay, well, are they going to treat Ginty the way they treated Zeke? Are you going to ask him to run between the tackles, or are you going to push him out wide a little more? Like, I really do think, much like quarterbacks, it is situational. If Scat were to get to a system where you've got a good offensive line and you have a more stationary quarterback, I think that could work for him. But you're not going to catch this guy, doing the Xavier Worthy, impression in the NFL. This is not, a 4-3 running back. This is someone who I think has a lot of value in the NFL. I think he could be used, but he needs to be used the correct way, just like any other player.
But Scat is a better receiver.
I do think he is a better receiver. Yeah. I'll say this too, and maybe this is just a product of their personalities being a little bit different. I love the way Scat plays the game, and I agree you can't run your face into it in the NFL the way you do in college, so he's going to have to make that adjustment. But I love running backs who run their ass off for their team. I love guys who are more than happy at the boundary, at the out of bounds line, to lay it on the safety. I love guys like that in the NFL. Yep. And for me, I think Scat would be more of that guy than Ginty would be. Not to say that the Cowboys should not draft Ginty, because I think that would be a perfectly fine pick.
Yep. Delaric, if Ollie was anywhere else, he would have been considered the best running back this year.
He was in
a
bad situation. Again,
he wasn't.
So is Ollie Gordon going to have the vision to say, yeah, I should go to Ohio State, or I should go to Texas, or I should go to, wherever? Or
Ollie Gordon's making a mistake in the portal or going to the NFL draft. It's a mistake.
Like, that's a mistake.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oklahoma State needs to wake up and get O-linemen in the portal. Gordon is going pro because Oak State has a terrible offensive line.
No, I think he's going pro because the situation sucks. Yeah, not just the offensive line. I think the whole thing is just jacked. I don't think that, 2 years ago when he had the big year, vibes were good. This year, vibes were terrible. Multiple quarterbacks, offensive line sucked, play calling was terrible, defense couldn't, get off the field. Like, nothing as a running back, nothing went his way this year. And I just think I don't know, man. I think I was shocked when he said he was going to the draft. Honestly, I was shocked. I thought for sure he would have gone to, like I said, Texas, Ohio State, a powerhouse program, put his skills on display and then try it again in 26.
And am I the only one surprised that A.J. Green's also in the portal? Another running back at Oak State? That doesn't surprise anybody. Am I the only one surprised that you're losing a lot of dudes in the portal? And listen, you're going to have your wins, but I don't see how you are going to be able to legitimately make the argument that a guy like Stribling going to Ole Miss is anything but an indictment against Oak State.
Yeah.
That's rough. Brandon Butler, hello. Remember the fridge weighed 335 in the pros? There are kids on Texas bigger than that.
Yeah.
And he was a behemoth. Big Papa War Machine. Cam got too much Marion Barber
stud
to last 3 to 5 years in the NFL. Yeah, he will have to stylistically change his game. Knowledge Quest says idiotic take. Okay. And Donuts, imagine if Scat proclaimed to being the best in the NFL. Yeah, how about that?
But I do think he's got a legitimate take about being the best back in college football. I don't think he'd say that about the NFL. But I think after his performance in that game against Texas and after what he's done this year,
yeah, it's
hard to say he's not the best running back in college football right now.
Yep, I don't disagree. Boyd Lake, Scatterbu is a better receiver than Ginty. I agree. I would only take Scatterbu as my number 2 short yardage goal line running back. Mike Smith, Mountain Mama, Mike Smith. Scatterbu would be a good rotational running back for short yardage and goal line situations. His style would not last long in the NFL as a starter. I agree with that. He will have to change stylistically. Brandon Butler, Ollie is hoping he does well in the combine and gets drafted by the 4th round.
I guess, bro.
I would have gone. There were some people who thought he could have gone to Texas.
Bro, you're talking about this year's draft being a generational running back draft. Like, you're going out on a bad year in one of the deepest running back drafts, and you think you're going to get paid doing that?
Man, how many times do you see the depth of running back versus almost no? There are so few quarterbacks.
Yeah. It's a running back year.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Jake Brandon, hello. Oak State and University of Utah are literally the Spider-Man meme. Same situation with the head coach and lots of changes needed. I think that there has been a lot of conversations about culture at those two programs. And when you bring in a guy like Jason Beck and he brings in his guy, like I'm really interested to see what happens to Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, I have to say, with all due respect, I disagree that I understand the similarities on a surface level, but I disagree that it's the same situation. I think culturally it couldn't be more different. I think that the contract situation with Mike Gundy and asking him to take a pay cut or revising his contract or whatever so that you could use that money for NIL. You're not using $3 million for NIL. Let's be real.
No.
You already had the NIL money. You did that to
and
put
if
him in
you
his
needed
place.
to take a pay cut from your coach to pay for NIL, nobody's coming to play for you.
Yeah. So I just think that was a cover story for simply making Mike take a cut.
Although culturally at Utah, and we've heard this and talked about this on the show, there were some real fractures on that roster this year. The Cam quarterback thing,
the ghost of Cam coming back,
was absolutely a hangover. They never recovered from that. And then Isaac comes in and just can't operate. He's a turnover machine. I think the difference is the pieces are in place. I thought you would lose far more talent. And in talking to Utah players, I thought they were going to have a significant exit through the portal.
Right.
We haven't seen that. We have not seen that.
Well, but again, it's again your reputation. I mean, I think Witt had built a reputation in the Pac-12 of, hey, like, we're going to make sure that we're competing at the top of our conference every year, no matter what it takes. And this year, if you're a player looking at that program, you're not sitting there. And to me, this is the key difference between the two situations. When you look at Utah and you look at Kyle Whittingham, you're not saying, well, Witt's kind of lost it. He's not a portal guy. He's not. No, he's showing you through his actions that he is, and he's willing to put his pride aside and say, hey, we got to make changes offensively if we want to keep all our
It's
guys.
stunning that he hired back and then you're bringing in significantly different offensive talent.
Yeah.
Now, all of that to say, this is the most important year of Kyle Whittingham's career at Utah, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got to go and prove it now, of course.
This is where his legacy will a lot of shaping will happen to Kyle Whittingham's legacy this year.
Yeah.
If they do not compete at the top of this conference, it's going to get ugly. They cannot have another season the way they just did. And they obviously, the quarterback situation is a lot more steady. You're going to have Dampier as your number one, Isaac's your number two after a year. And I don't even know what you make of Isaac Wilson at this point.
Well, I think that, I was surprised people were shocked that he came in and struggled as much as he did. I mean, this is someone who is still really young. I mean, he was a freshman. I'm not not everybody can be Arch Manning sitting behind Quinn Ewers for 2.5 seasons before you even see the field. That's not Isaac didn't have that advantage, with all due respect to Cam Rising. And I think that, again, Isaac has a long runway in front of him in terms of eligibility. So if he is smart about this, he'll sit there, he'll learn the offense, he'll get really comfortable. So then when he does get his next chance, he can go out and perform, because nobody doubts the kid's talent. He's got a huge arm. He's fast. He can run well enough. Nobody doubts the talent. It's the execution piece that is in doubt. So I think he was actually really smart to stay, knowing that Beck was coming in. That was a good choice by him.
I also think when you look at Oak State, we've known this for several years now with Mike Gundy. All of the nonsense that he spewed, negotiations are over, guys, I could afford this player, he's here because I could afford him. Ollie's going to run stairs because of his DUI. No punishment for a DUI. That's bad culture.
I think I think your season was over right there. As soon as that happened, nobody was talking about football. Everybody was talking about Mike Gundy.
Payson Cougar fan, hello. 11-2, embrace the joy of what was. Don't lament on what could have been. Won't change anything. Go Cougs. Oh, I don't think there's any doubt this was a phenomenal season in Provo. There's no question about that. None whatsoever. The Kansas game is just inexplicable.
One of those games.
Yeah, you just can't. It's night game in the cold at home, and you lost.
Yeah,
you can't understand it. You just can't.
Well, and I think the hard part too is, at that time, if you guys remember, the talk of, Kalani and the program was, hey, preparation. We've got a really good process in place. So our practices are really good. I remember Aaron Roderick talking about hey, the offense is in good flow. We're really firing on all cylinders. Everything's good. And then it was just shocking to see BYU come out in that game and just look lost and make mental mistakes. Because that's all that was. It was just bad
execution.
Mental mistakes across not just players, not everybody, coaches, players,
yes,
the whole deal. And that's
hard.
What's tough.
That's why with, pick your poison. Whichever team you want to talk about. Arizona State being mentally tough, staying in that game.
It would have been easy to fold.
And then you look at somebody like a Georgia, Notre Dame, the ability to do that week after week after week. Notre Dame, easy schedule. But you look at Georgia now without a quarterback, you're going to a guy that's got little experience. If they beat Notre Dame this afternoon, that would be an unbelievable coaching job. You look at teams like Arizona State, what they overcame, the odds, the Herm Edwards, the violations, the punishments, the no excuses, just win games.
Well, and I think taking a risk with Kenny Dillingham. I mean, at that time, the program was in a terrible spot. You really needed someone who was going to, shepherd them out of a dark time in the program's history, if you will. And I love it. I love the fact, and again, I've never been an ASU fan per se, but I'm a big fan of when programs are doing things the right way. I love the fact that the extension gets announced right after the game. Hey, we got Kenny handled. He's going to be here. And by the way, if you win and you win the way you are more consistently, this extension has the opportunity to turn into a 10-year situation if you win ball games. I love that. I think they're doing that the right way. That's how an extension should work. Hey, we're going to extend you 3 years, but if you win, you can get 2-3 more years on top of that. So I just think that they're doing it the right way. And again, and we've hammered this point on the show. The young guns in college football are winning right now. Like,
yeah,
I know that Sark isn't 30 years old, but he certainly trends younger with the players and the way he does things. And like, he's one of those guys. And I just think that you have to have a more, a younger, more get after kind of head coach. And I feel bad about that because unfortunately the Mike Gundys and the Kyle Whittinghams,
Dabo,
Dabo, I even put in a different piece because I just don't think that the guy will change ever. Like, I think that Dabo is just going to die on the hill and he's going to win a weak ass conference every year. He's going to go to college football playoff or be right in that bubble team. And if he doesn't get in, well, we should have got in, yada, yada, and then they get in next year. So he's going to be protected in that sense. But dudes like Witt and, Gundy and some of these, like Rich Rod at West Virginia, this is my thing with Rich Rod. I like the hire, but are you, are you someone that's going to be, aggressive in the portal? Are you going to embrace NIL? Or like, who are you going to be? Because you weren't exactly all about it when times got hard at Arizona.
I'm tired of people complaining about NIL.
Yeah, seriously.
Like and the Tanavasa Utah BYU thing. Every Utah fan complaining that he was given a bag. That's what college football is now.
Are you surprised? It's the Quinn Ewers thing.
Why is that a problem? Like,
I'm tired of the word tampering being this thing that we try to bring people down with. Are you like, if you're a successful, like Boise State, perfect example, right? You've got Boise State officials out here saying, oh, well, people are calling our team and, calling our players on our team and we're going to hold you accountable. And then you've got the Jim Mora Jr. thing on the East Coast with UConn. And like, dude, that's today's environment.
That's what it is.
That's what, why do you think Kenny Dillingham's doing press conferences? What was that, 2 weeks ago, I think, where he's like, yeah, we understand the process, man. Kids are getting calls. Kids got to evaluate their situation and their future. And ultimately, they have to make a decision. And we're good with whatever decision they make. But we're not just going to kick them out of the program. If they're willing to practice with us, if they're willing to show up and, essentially just do what they've been doing, continue to be a football player, continue to contribute, continue to do what they're supposed to do.
Be part of our culture.
Yeah, right? Like, then we were happy to have them until it's time for them to go ahead and transfer.
It is the Dillinghams and the Coach Primes of college football that will win. They will always have more talent.
Yes.
And you will win if you use the promo code Monty to open up a new Prize Picks account. Download the Prize Picks app. Come on, that was amazing.
That was a professional transition.
Download the Prize Picks app.
That.
Use the promo code Monty. You deposit $5. Prize Picks will give you 50 more instantly. And if you have not done it, tonight's Georgia Notre Dame game.
And you say tonight.
This afternoon.
This afternoon's game.
Why is it at 3:00? Well,
now, I have to say, before we get into these picks, I am shocked that people were so outraged about this game being pushed one day. Like, everybody was like, oh, you're rewarding the bad guys. Like, no, dude, actually there's processes that have to take place. The government has to do their job and stuff.
No, what you're doing is protecting fans and players at the Superdome.
Like, come on, man.
And you are allowing people to have a few minutes in a city that's been I saw some of that and I can't. I can't.
So with that being said, Gunnar Stockton tonight on a goblin for half a touchdown is a gimme. 100%.
It is?
Yeah, that's a gimme, dude. Come on.
Why do you hate Notre Dame?
Because Riley Leonard's not throwing a touchdown tonight. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed Riley Leonard's not throwing a touchdown.
I don't think he's throwing a touchdown tonight. It's going to take the only way he throws a touchdown is if they throw something in the flat or, maybe a crosser and Georgia has somebody fall down.
I love Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame stud running back.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody notice no knee brace and no sleeve on his knee? My guy's ready to go. 68.5 rushing yards. it feels like an absolute gimme. An absolute gimme. I agree, Gunnar Stockton and Riley Leonard for a touchdown pass. But both of those are goblins. Gunnar Stockton, 24.5 rushing yards.
I don't know. See, that's the one where I'm like, hey, it's Notre Dame's defense. They're going to be selling out to stop the run. I don't know that I would go with that.
You think they sell out to stop the run?
I do. I think they're going to sell out to stop the run to try to force him to pass.
Yeah, and then you got to look at some of the receiving numbers. Jordan Faison's only 31.5 receiving yards. Notre Dame, this is where my fandom, I have to put my Notre Dame fandom aside. I think I am going to go with, I think Gunnar Stockton for a touchdown pass. That's going to happen, bro. And I think Jeremiah Love, more than 68.5 rushing yards. And then you just got to try and find one.
I mean, I like Dominic Lovett from Georgia, obviously. 31.5 receiving yards. He's done that every game, his last 5 games.
Yeah. What about, oh, man. Dude, it's tough.
Yeah.
This is a tough one.
Now, if you get outside of this game and you look at Jackson Dart, I think his number is 30-something rushing yards.
Well, that's the other one that you look at.
I'm going to go Gunnar Stockton for 1 passing touchdown, Jeremiah Love for more than 68.5 rushing yards, and Dominic Lovett for more than 31.5 receiving yards.
All right, I got Gunnar Stockton on a goblin for half a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Love for more than 68.5 rushing yards, and Jackson Dart for a rushing touchdown.
There you go.
I'm going to play that on a flex play.
I like it.
Because pimp's going to pimp.
Right. You know.
Here's how you win on Prize Picks. And
tried and true formula.
I will continue to tell you this. 3 selections. Flex play, which means only 2 of those 3 have to hit for you to win money on Prize Picks. It's that simple. Open up a new Prize Picks account. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y Monty. You deposit $5. They'll give you $50 instantly at Prize Picks, America's favorite daily fantasy app. Tens of millions of us are playing Prize Picks every single day. It's awesome in the NBA. It's awesome in Major League Baseball, the NFL, college football, the college football playoff. It's everything you want. Prize Picks, America's daily fantasy favorite. There you go. I took Scatterboo for a passing touchdown and 1 big. You're a liar.
Nice.
You're a liar.
Nice, dude. That's really wow.
That never happened.
Dilly dilly.
Hyenas will be hyenas.
100%.
Okay. The winner needs to get home tonight since the next game is on the 9th. Yeah. It's rough the extra day. It is rough. Boyd Lake, the SEO King of America. We went to the Alamo Bowl, stopped at Bucky's on the way home. Perfect night. Still haven't been to Bucky's. Still have not been to Bucky's. Payson Cougar fan. Looks like all the teams that received a first-round bye really struggled. Could be a catalyst for 16 teams in top 8 having a home game. I do wish round 2 was a home game.
Yeah.
I do wish that.
But see, again, this is the whole deal about starting the playoff earlier so that, then the semifinal is the bowl week where you've got the Sugar Bowl and all the bowls. And then you've got an extra week in the playoff.
Does that devalue the Rose Bowl if we'd have played that game at Autzen Stadium? Because they'd have played that game at home. Does Ohio State do that to Oregon at Autzen Stadium? Yeah, I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time.
I also think if you do that, you're putting a lot more value on wins in the regular season. Teams will then have to say, okay, hey, I don't want to like as an example, hey, we lost to them at Autzen early in the year. We don't want to see them again on the road, so we're going to have to find a way to try to avoid that. Like you would have that conversation would be raging.
Yeah.
So I think it's tough, but I do think that conversation is going to be everywhere in the offseason. I think we're going to have multiple meetings. I think that the SEC is going to continue to try to have their chokehold on the playoff. And again, to the point earlier,
we need something bigger, which is what.
Yeah.
Anyway, this whole talk about expanding the 16, you need the Super League. If you're going to expand, you need a Super League.
Yeah.
And I just think there's too much talk about private money not to do it.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Tanner Plummer. I have to put my Notre Dame fandom aside. Is that even possible, Marty? No, it's really not. But yes, it is. Which is when you look at this game, Georgia, Notre Dame at the Superdome, Notre Dame minus 145.5.
Yeah. First of all, how is Georgia a dog at the Superdome?
Well, because they're the Bulldogs.
Like,
that's why you don't change your mascot because you're playing at the Superdome.
That's not what I meant.
What did you mean?
That they were a betting dog.
Oh, an underdog.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant dog, as in DAWG, the dogs.
Right.
I think that Georgia's a really good postseason team. I think that when you look at the way that Georgia plays football, it's all irrelevant because Gunnar Stockton's going to have to win the game for them. I think it's that simple. You're going to force this kid to throw the ball. I think you're going to spy him so he can't run. And I think this is going to be a one-possession game that Georgia's going to win. Georgia has found a way, even when his soul elevated out of his body after getting ripped at the goal line in the SEC championship game. Do we still have that picture?
No idea.
You guys remember the Gunnar Stockton picture? Where his wrong picture.
My bad. Sorry.
Wrong
my
picture.
bad.
My bad. We don't have the Gunnar Stockton picture, but the picture of Gunnar Stockton with his eyes rolled back in his head and his knee and his knee behind his keister. Even in that moment, they find a way.
Yeah.
Carson Beck with one arm, who has a nerve issue and a surgery coming up, still is able to turn around and hand it off and. You run to they find ways to win games. And that's I am leaning Mike Smith. It's over. They're going to go over the number. I think there will be more points scored, but I think Georgia's going to win this game. And I feel like it is, in my opinion, this is a 31-27 win for Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be the most because I just think these two defenses are, elite. I think that, yes, like the Texas ASU game, Texas has an elite defense, but that defense is prone to giving up points in certain situations, as we've seen multiple times this year. Whereas Georgia and Notre Dame's defenses have shown us, like, hey, when they're locked in, this is a home game for Georgia. I don't care what anyone says. You're in Atlanta. Like, what are we? Or I'm sorry, you're in New Orleans, coming from Atlanta. This is a home game for Georgia. This is a road game for Notre Dame. And that's the processes they have in place. So if you're Notre Dame, you're coming in here, not sleeping in your own bed, not doing any of that. And I'm just simply saying, hey, Georgia should win this ball game. If this was being played north, if this was being played in New York City, I would sit here and I would tell you, hey, man, this is a home game for Notre Dame. They're going to be a more comfortable team, the more prepared team. They're going to be feeling better coming into the game, but I just don't know how you bet against or think that Georgia somehow is going to lose this game after Gunnar Stockton comes into the game and drives you right down the field. Like, I just don't see how that works out.
And can I just be the a-hole in the room to say that the biggest quarterback issue is not Gunnar Stockton, it's Riley Leonard?
It is.
Because what did Indiana do to keep themselves in that game? Sell out, stop the run.
Yep. And by the way, Riley Leonard showed us that he is someone who is nervy early in games. He makes poor decisions early in the game until he gets settled in.
I think it's either 31-27 or 27-24. I think it goes over. Again, the number's 45.5. I can't get to a place where I can pick Riley Leonard to beat Georgia's defense.
Agreed.
That's the biggest issue.
And I think because Riley Leonard's not as much of a threat, you're not going to be able to, Jeremiah Love's not going to have some 150-yard game against Georgia. That's not happening.
And I think Gunnar Stockton can throw the football.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people think you just forget that he's one of the better quarterbacks of his
Dude,
class.
He plays for Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be very interesting. Norge Coog, Georgia's offense not putting up 31 on Notre Dame's defense.
Maybe it's not the offense that's scoring points.
The biggest issue is Georgia's offense will have the ball more. They will have more opportunities because Riley Leonard is not somebody that can throw you to a win against an elite defense.
Yeah.
And that's why this will be a close game. Notre Dame's defense is very good. I wish you had a stud in the secondary that was a Caleb Downs type player, but you're good enough back there. And I think Riley Mills being out of this game is going to hurt. Notre Dame's pass rush, again, it's been well documented that they have 13 guys that have at least one sack. They can get after the quarterback's ass. So there's no doubt about it. But let's make no mistake here. Make no mistake. Riley Leonard is not a quarterback who can win you a game on his own. That'll be the difference in this game. And I think, and if you want to pare this down, great, 27-24. I think Gunnar Stockton's a better quarterback than Riley Leonard, and their defenses are very similar. They're very good. They're elite defenses. And I think Georgia's on a bye week, and I think that Notre Dame's missing one of your better pass rushers. That adds up to more points.
Yeah.
I think you go over, and I think I'll ride with 27-24 Georgia, in my opinion.
Curious if the Notre Dame defense can generate an interception in this game too, though, because I think they're going to need that to win the game. I think that you're going to have to put, you're going to have to deceive Gunnar Stockton. That's how Notre Dame's going to win this game. If Notre Dame can, come up to the line of scrimmage, show pressure, and then drop out of that, and Gunnar doesn't know what they're doing, and then you can generate a turnover off of that, that's where Notre Dame is going to find an edge. But if we see, if Notre Dame does to Georgia what they did to Indiana, which is, a lot of just man coverage, single high safety kind of looks, I don't think that that's going to be good enough. You're going to have more layers defensively than that to win this game, because I would agree. Riley Leonard just does not strike fear or any type of intimidation into a defense. Georgia's defense is not like, oh man, this guy's going to throw it all over the yard. They're not saying that. They're saying, hey, we got to stop Love and we got to control the line of scrimmage defensively, and we'll be just fine. And that's why I would agree. I think you're looking at at most a 35-31 kind of game at most. I think we could very easily get a 28-24 sub 30 kind of game.
You held Army, Navy, USC in Northern Illinois under 150 yards rushing. You held some really prolific running teams under 150 yards rushing. So I would expect you to play pretty well against the run. Gunnar Stockton's a better thrower than Riley Leonard. That's why I'm taking Georgia.
Yeah.
I think that's as simple as it can be. And I understand that a lot of Indiana's production against Notre Dame was when the game was not in doubt. It was late. Totally get it. My biggest concern is you have way better athletes that are much faster on Georgia's receiving core than anything Notre Dame has seen this year. 27-24. 27-24. That's where I'm going. Damian Fowler, low-scoring game, defense will rule 24-20 dogs. Could see it happening. Absolutely. Delaric, I think this one-day delay makes the game hard to predict because they were ready to play and had to wait an extra day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
all the reporting says they were in shelter in place as well, which I think is a big deal as far as the player's experience is concerned.
Could not leave the hotel.
Yeah, not able to leave the hotel, hanging out in the shoebox all day. That's not fun.
Yeah, I agree. The eye patch over under Georgia has 2 defensive No. You can say a lot about Notre Dame's offense, or Riley Leonard's not a pick six guy. Riley Leonard's not the problem with Riley Leonard is he's not dynamic.
Yeah.
He's not dynamic.
It's very vanilla.
He's not somebody that makes terrible throws or he's just not dynamic.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? The Chad Carter, a member of the show for 12 months. Is the championship decided by Ohio State, Texas? Well, if that's, I don't know, Chad, which Ohio State team shows up, because how did this team lose to Michigan?
They weren't this team. They weren't this team.
How? That's what I don't understand. And you look at both of these teams. Texas, that's a targeting call. Arizona State wins the game.
Would agree.
Not a targeting call. How is that not a targeting call? I look at Ohio State. Blew the doors off of Oregon after losing to Michigan.
And Oregon.
How? You tell me what Ohio State team shows up. If that team that showed up at the Rose Bowl is the same team that shows up next week, it's over. Ohio State's best team in the country. They're winning the Natty. Done. What else are we here to talk about? But if the team that showed up against Michigan and was lackluster and was, measuring their length and width and got their heads beat in, yeah, that team's losing to Texas.
Can you measure it?
Because Texas is, I'm telling you now, Ohio State fan, Texas's defense is no joke. That's one of the few defenses who can run and hit with Ohio State. So I don't. Jahdae Barron's the best defensive back in the country.
Yeah.
Did you see him not once, not twice, 3 times level Cam Scatterbo yesterday? Just take him off his feet. That defense is legitimately good under Pete Kwiatkowski at Texas. The biggest question I have is, which Ohio State team will show up? Because if the one that showed up yesterday shows up, they're not losing to anybody. Nobody. And there's so many injuries on the Texas offensive line that worries me a little bit, but you honestly believe a redshirt sophomore quarterback making his first start in college ball in the Sugar Bowl is more solid veteran? Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Bro, I've seen Riley Leonard play a lot of football. He's uninspiring. He is not somebody. I want nothing to do with Riley Leonard throwing me to a win. Notre Dame's going to win this game. Love needs to break off big runs, and this defense needs to lock down. Because you can sit here, and I don't know if you're a Notre Dame fan or not. And again, I'm going to look before I speak. But if you look at Gunnar Stockton, and you look at where he comes from, and you look at his body of work, you're out of your mind if you think that this kid is just some fell off the peach tree in Georgia country bumpkin. He's not, because what this cat has done is nothing short of he is a really good quarterback.
Yeah. Nobody knows about him though, because he's sitting behind Carson.
I just think that he is.
And by the way, I'd also point out, just because Carson Beck's arm fell off doesn't mean he can't help prepare Gunnar Stockton to start this ball game.
2,900 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Running for 709 yards and 17 touchdowns. Average 6.8 yards per carry. Mr. Football in the state of Georgia.
Guy can play, dude.
And the problem is, and I continue to say this, Riley Leonard should never have been the quarterback at Notre Dame.
But why was he?
Because he played well when Duke came into South Bend.
Yes. Yes.
Has Riley Leonard inspired anybody to believe that Notre Dame is this juggernaut of an offense? We're all tied to Love. He's it for us. That's the whole deal. It is, to me, unthinkable. And I just continue to ask people, what is it about Riley Leonard and his 2,293 passing yards against nobody? What is it that makes you think that Riley Leonard is somehow the guy that, man?
Well, and I just think, okay, let's say you're not a stats person and you're just looking at it with the eye test. The eye test tells you, hey, this is someone who, like I said 5 minutes ago, is super nervy to start a game, damn near turned it over against Indiana on the first possession, was pretty shaky with his ball placement. With like when I'm looking at a quarterback in a big game, are they spiraling it or are we ducking it? Are we looking nervous coming to the line of scrimmage? Are we having to use the entire play clock? Like what are the vibes? This is someone who was nervous, who was not throwing it well, who almost turned it over, and they had to lean on Love in the running game and throwing it to the flat to get by Indiana early in the game. And I got news for you. If you're going to try and do that against Georgia, bad things are going to happen because Georgia's not going to give you the free pass that Indiana did.
Does not have a 300-yard passing game. Has more 100-yard passing games than 200-yard passing games. And has 15 rushing touchdowns against 17 passing touchdowns. Bro, we can argue all you want, but there is no argument. Riley Leonard's not a better quarterback than Gunnar Stockton. He's not. Is Gunnar Stockton inexperienced? He is at the college level, but he's never in his entire career been a turnover guy. And he's got the X factor in the hammer.
And I just think if you're looking at these two quarterbacks and you say, "Hey, I like Riley Leonard more," or maybe it's not about Riley Leonard. Maybe Stymie or whoever is like, "Hey, Gunnar hasn't played the caliber of defense that Notre Dame has." Okay, I don't disagree with that at the college level, but what are we forgetting? We're forgetting the level of preparation that Kirby has shown his team to have repeatedly.
And did this kid look scared?
No.
In the
Not
SEC championship game?
They got better when he came in.
He was going up against one of the best defenses, and he knowingly took a shot at the goal line. We'll see. It all comes out, man.
Yeah.
Mike Smith, who's been a member of the show for 17 months.
Hey, Mike.
Mountain Mama. Another year of letting you bask in my greatness. And it's much appreciated.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Brandon Butler. The only reason Notre Dame is not a 7-point dog is because there are questions at quarterback with Georgia. That's it. That's the entire
I agree completely.
Because man for man,
nothing says Notre Dame should win this game. In my
I would
opinion.
agree with that. Force Ghost Fabio says Mike Smith is carrying the show every day.
That's every day.
Monty doing his best not to go full Notre Dame homer this morning.
I'm not sure how he's being a homer, dude.
I think, yeah. Mike Smith. Riley is the bus driver type QB.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, man. It can be done with an elite defense. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to see how all this plays out. And again, I just ask, if Quinn Ewers gets into the portal, first of all, in the comment section, do you guys think he goes portal or NFL draft?
Pack this thing up. We're out of here.
Portal.
I think he's going portal.
Doesn't have the draft stock to go to the NFL yet.
Do you believe if Ohio State, and a lot of people think it's Ohio State.
Do you believe?
Ohio State offers him multi-millions of dollars.
6 to 10 by all reports.
It's called $5 million. Notre Dame offers him $5 million. Where is he going? Notre Dame or Ohio State?
He's
all day. To Ohio State.
All day long.
He's going to Ohio State.
Now, I will say this. If they go out and win a national championship, I think that increases his odds to go to the draft.
Here's the question, though. If Ohio State beats Texas and Quinn Ewers looks bad against Ohio State, can he go to Ohio State? I don't think he can.
Oh, who are they, Notre Dame?
I don't think he can. I don't think you'll have the respect and the leadership ability.
So does he go to Oregon?
If you get, I would think it would be Oregon, because Oregon needs a quarterback. Their season's over, which is wild, absolutely wild. Yeah. Do you think Quinn Ewers goes NFL draft or portal? I've never seen Monty go homer for Notre Dame. If anything, anti-homer, a healthy pessimism of his favorite team.
Oh yeah, I mean, this guy's always hating on Notre Dame.
Yeah, Brandon Butler, Ewers would go to the draft. It's a very weak QB class this year, which I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. I don't know, man. He's one of those quarterbacks who, again, watching the game yesterday, I'm like, all right, Quinn, need you here, buds. 4th and 13. What are we going to do? And he dials it up and he makes the throw. But then there are other times where it's like, what in the hell was that? Like, what are you even
What was
looking
that
at?
floater over the middle in a game-losing situation?
Yeah, like,
Quinn?
what are we looking at here, man?
Mike Smith, I think he gets more money from NIL than NFL because he's not going to be a day 1 or 2 pick. I agree. Hey, man, if the Ohio State or Oregon or Notre Dame offers you $6 to $10 million to be the starter, you're saying no? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Big Papa War Machine, he's got to go to the portal. If I was the Titans, I wouldn't even adopt that man. I'm not a huge fan. Lisa Sims, we don't want him back at Ohio State.
Who are you, K-State fan hating on Will Howard?
You're going to have to replace Will Howard, who yeah. Tom Dean, tell the truth. For Christmas dinner, did you have turkey, ham, or raccoon? I had raccoon.
I don't know what raccoon is. Coon, as it's referred to, I've never had that. So I went ahead and went full,
You went raccoon as well.
I went full roller food, turkey roasted situation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We don't have the Jerry Jones video anymore.
No.
Unfortunately.
No, that's last year's business, old news.
Last year's business.
Yeah.
Okay. Delaric. NFL only if he wins the national championship because he shows he can win the big game.
Yeah.
Great point.
See?
Jeff Johnson, Ohio State riding with Sayin next year. Better chance Ewers ends up at Oregon.
God, can you imagine Quinn Ewers in that awful green?
Ooh, I don't know. Any portal, he missed too many games where Manning looked baller. Yeah.
Now, I will say, if you look at Bo Nix's track record, though, or if you look at his path, I should say, going to Oregon was really good for Bo Nix, right? Veteran quarterback, been in a couple places. Dylan Gabriel's doing it. Like, maybe for Quinn that is the right stop. But I don't know. I would agree. If he wins a national championship, I do think he's going to the draft.
You're out of your mind, Boyd. Ewers, I would guess he goes to the draft. If he stays, Manning goes to Ohio State.
No.
It's over for Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Every game could be his last game at Texas because this is
it.
Arch Manning's gig next year. He is the starting cornerback. I think they've waited too long already. You've waited too long already.
Yeah, that Georgia game where they were playing both of them, that's when it should have been done.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Mike Elko. Ewers is injury prone, gets hurt every year. Does coming back and getting hurt again help his draft stock? Well, he doesn't seem hurt now.
Yeah, he seems fine now, man.
Yeah, I agree. He's had major injuries, but can you imagine? I think the biggest argument for him to go to the draft is this is a weak QB class. Shedeur Sanders is the first quarterback off the board. And then who else would be better than Quinn Ewers? Prototypical body, right? The answer is I don't know. Stupid. Ohio State has struggled with contain and Ewers can't move. I got a feeling it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
It'll be
Gabriel was running his ass off. There's no doubt.
It will be. I don't know. We'll see. Lisa Sims. I'm a proud Quinn Ewers hater. I know very clearly.
See, now this I can respect. See, this is what I mean with the Will Howard haters. Just be a proud hater.
Yeah.
Just say, I'm a Will Howard hater. It is what it is.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, like just wear it.
I hate you, Quinn.
Yeah, like come on.
Any Ewers might just end up at Oregon with what they have done with Nix and Gabriel and them being Heisman finalists. I mean, that's a strong argument. I don't disagree with you at all. Chad Carter. If Julian Sain isn't starting next year, is that a condemnation of quarterbacks being able to develop or just a sign of the times with the portal? Just a sign of the times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're Ryan Day, dude, you got to beat Michigan.
Because that's the only thing with Ryan Day is he doesn't beat Michigan. That's it.
Yeah. Astro. No way he's a first rounder like some have said. Quinn Ewers is not a first rounder. Brandon Bootlair. Oregon is going to take Cam Rising. They love experienced QB. Shut up.
Savage.
That's amazing.
Savage.
That is amazing. Listen, I think it is. How do you get into Cam Rising's situation?
You don't have another guy. That's how.
The way that Cam Rising buoyed and then absolutely torpedoed Utah football is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the quitter quarterback, in steps I said it.
Dude.
In steps Cam Rising, who everybody wanted to get the job, but they gave it to the quitter quarterback. Now and then he carries you, and then he gets hurt, and then he's coming back, and then he's coming back, and then he's coming back, and he's not back, and he's back, and he's not back, and then he's back, and he gets hurt.
Monty.
Like the third snap of the season. You cannot even make that up. I don't even know how you would.
Yeah.
Tom Dean, if you were in charge of the Bears, who would you pick in the first round? The best offensive tackle available.
Yeah.
End of story. You were going offensive line because this offensive line is atrocious.
Trash.
What are we going to pick 12th, I think? I don't know. I didn't look at I haven't looked at an NFL mock draft in some time. But I would have to believe who's not going to have the Bears at offensive tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to
That's
think
what they need.
I have to think you will. I mean,
if you go any other route, you're just doing it wrong. Like, I just don't know what else you would, what else are you looking at? I mean, that's your team's clear need.
If I look at the mock drafts, I think I would have to, boy, that's tough. I mean, I think the only guy that moves you even a little bit, no, I don't think so. I think you're taking Calvin Banks. I don't even know who else it would be. Honest to goodness, who else would it even be? I mean, you're fine on defense. You're good enough on defense. Will Campbell probably won't be there. The Bears, I think, picked 12th. Will Campbell won't be there. You're going offensive tackle. Brandon Butler, it all depends if they can get experienced line in free agency with the Bears. Well, they can't pick worse than 9th. Okay, now I'm going to have to go and do the whole thing. 2025 NFL Mommy Says mock draft. NFL mock draft. Let me look. I just want to make sure I don't misspeak. Let's see. I think Travis Hunter is the first one off the board, right? Do we all agree with that at least?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's Travis, then Shador. Yeah.
If I had to right now go with a mock draft, God dog it, the Bears would pick 9th. The Giants are taking Travis Hunter, I would think.
But see, again, this is my thing with the Patriots. And this is the problem with the draft. Because the Patriots right now are number 1 overall after the Giants won a ball game.
Would you take Shador Sanders or if you're the Giants, are you going quarterback or best player? You need a lot. You can buy quarterback. Hell, Aaron Rodgers, never mind. Is Shador Sanders a transformative quarterback?
Yes. Yep.
On a bad team.
Yeah, I think he's better than anything you've had in the last probably 5 years, 7 years.
Oh, man, that's tough. Because I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And if you're the Patriots, you're probably taking Travis Hunter number 1. I think that the Giants, I think the Giants trade out of that spot. But that's just me.
See, to me, that's a mistake, right? If you're the Giants, all good NFL franchises have franchise quarterback. So to draft out of that, to me, I'm just sitting there and I'm saying, hey, what are you gonna continue to do? Draft, continue to roll out, backup after backup and just deal with it? Is that what we're doing? Like, that's
all right,
the hard part.
Let's say there are no deals. I would take Travis Hunter 1, Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, because I'm looking at mocks that have Cam Ward number 2.
I would prefer Shador, but that's just me.
I would think so. If I had to, I would take Shedeur. I'm not going to change my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change my opinion now. Titans will take Shedeur Sanders, number 2. I think the Browns have to go. Man, do you go quarterback in Cleveland?
No, you just restructured Buddy's deal.
Well, which would allow you to sit a rookie quarterback behind Deshaun, who is not sure to play next year.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go either offensive line or quarterback.
Yeah.
The Giants, I think, go.
The Giants do the opposite of what the Patriots do. So a lot of people think that, and this is why the Patriots thing is so important to the Giants, because a lot of people think, well, what if the Patriots decide to trade Drake May and pick up a lot of draft capital and draft Shedeur instead of Travis Hunter? Because if that happens, then obviously the Giants are taking Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I think if you are the Browns, you go offensive line.
Yeah.
And this is why I worry about the Bears.
Yep.
The Giants will go Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. The Jags are almost certainly going defense. I think the Panthers are going defense. And then here's where it gets dicey for the Bears. Who are the New York Jets going to draft? They're going to draft Will Campbell from LSU. That's it. There's not even another pick there.
Would the Jets trade up to get Shedeur?
I don't think so.
Because, and this is the rumor mill.
I don't think so.
Again, I know I'm just an Aaron Rodgers hater. The Jets are definitively moving on from Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams after the season. Devontae will continue to play. He'll find a new home. Cool. Aaron Rodgers is saying that Sunday could be the last game of his career.
Who cares?
So
maybe that guy will get hit by a bus. I mean, who cares?
But my point is let's say that it is.
Man, I dislike him.
Yeah. Let's say that it is, they're both gone. If you're the Jets, you're sitting here. Who are you? What? I believe, what is their backup? Tyrod Taylor, I believe it is, right? Or not
Nobody.
Tyrod. They have, gosh, who's their backup?
Nobody. I'm telling you, it doesn't. You're working with a clean slate.
Yeah.
Right now.
But that's my point. So
when we're talking about the draft, it doesn't matter who's on your roster now. Right. And Tyrod Taylor is your number 2.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
So my point is if you're the Jets, there's credence to trading up to get a franchise guy.
Well, I think the team that's going to trade up is going to be the Raiders. They're at 8. I think they're going to fire Antonio Pierce. And I think that if you're the Raiders, that's the team that I would watch on Shedeur Sanders. I think that's the team that really likes him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they could. Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Raiders, I'm probably calling Deion Sanders, although I don't think he would go to the NFL. But I certainly think I could see the Raiders making a run at Shedeur Sanders. All this to say the Bears at 9 are probably going to wind up with the 3rd best tackle in the draft.
Yeah.
Depending on what the Cleveland Browns do. I would love Calvin Banks. I think he's an elite size footwork guy. I don't even know that there's another. If you don't get him, now I start to really worry about what you're going to do.
But I also think, we're talking about the draft for the Bears. Is Ryan Pace still there?
Yes.
Unless
he resigns, Ryan Pace will still be there.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's at risk of being fired. But we remember the resignation conversation or rumors that were about.
We'll see. I don't know. It all depends on what happens with Madden rating, according to Johnson.
What an idiot. I mean, what an absolute idiot.
Yeah. New England trades to number 1 to Raiders, and they take. I think that could very well happen.
Yeah.
New England needs offensive line even more than the Patriots need a lot, including a new head coach.
But I'll tell you what, I love the Drake May, Travis Hunter duo. Love that.
Yeah, I could see that. I would love Graham, Carter, or T-Mac, but think all 3 will be gone by Dallas's pick. You're taking a running back.
No, you're taking one running back.
Yeah, you're taking Ashton Genty there.
Yeah.
I think. Big Papa War Machine, if Shedeur goes to the Raiders, watch out for Brock Bowers winning an MVP. Brock Bowers is a stud already.
Yeah.
Saw a report that the Browns could get Kirk Cousins, so they may not need a QB. Kirk Cousins is going to go somewhere, right? Raiders need to trade up for Shedeur. Then if he's around, get Genty. Well, I don't know that the Raiders, Genty won't be there. I don't think, but I could be wrong about that. I don't think he'll
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be there. Do you go out for New Year's Eve or do you stay in? Let's talk about that after this from the app. The Advocates, clear, risk-free advice. That's what you need on one of the worst moments of your life. After you've been in a car accident, after with all the snow and winter weather that covers the country this time of year, man, it's terrifying when you get into an accident. Do not trust your insurance company. Go to the pros, the Advocates. You don't pay a penny unless and until they win your case. Chat with an injury attorney live online for free at theadvocates.com. After you were done eating off the roller?
Right.
Did you eat off a roller in Kansas City?
No, I did not.
Did you have barbecue?
No.
Okay, I'm proud of you.
I did not.
What did you do?
What did we do? We had a Top Golf session. That was fun. And then we just kind of hung out. Honestly, we didn't do a ton. We watched a bunch of football for sure. Did a basic little bit of shopping, but that's pretty much it. There wasn't a ton of.
Did you go out on New Year's Eve?
No, nope. And I have to say, regardless of the Sugar Bowl stuff and all of that, generally in years past, I'm not a go out on New Year's Eve guy, and it's mostly just because I just don't enjoy the crowd. That's the hard part for me. Is I'm not interested in being around like a bunch of drunk folks ringing in the new year. I would rather be enjoying the time off. Like, I mean, I'm happy to have a drink or whatever while we watch the ball drop, but man, I got to tell you, I'm not interested in being around the crowd.
I don't disagree. We went out New Year's Eve. We actually did all of our shopping and then went up to Park City and went to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Tell you what, I give Ruth Chris a lot of credit. We were the first ones in the door, and their service was okay. I've never had a bad steak at Ruth's Chris.
Right.
I order my steaks medium. Mine came out rare. The ravioli we ordered as an appetizer was cold. The apple pie that we ordered for dessert was cold.
Did you send any of this back?
Yes. Had to talk to the general manager. She took the ravioli off our bill. She personally came to our table, took the apple pie off the table, brought a new one, and then gave us a $100 gift card to come back. Like, amazing service. It is. I'm kind of a big deal.
Hey, Monty.
We've been to many Ruth's Chris Steakhouse across the country.
Right.
Park City and Maui are the two best that I've ever been to. And I think Park City is the #1 rated Ruth's Chris in the entire country. In the entire country.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand why now. Because their service was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. When you get cold food at a Ruth's Chris, you're paying.
Yeah, time to send it back.
Yeah. And
they know that, by the way. They're well aware of that.
The general manager came over, not because we asked her to come over. We weren't even going to send it back, I'll be honest with you. She came over just to say, hey, how are things? Thanks for being here. So we didn't even have to ask her to come over. Then she came back because we told her, hey, usually you guys are rock solid. And I showed her my steak was rare instead of medium. She immediately offered to replace it. I was like, nah, most of it, it's fine. But their level of service going above and beyond, I'm not the guy that's going to send much back and I don't generally eat at a garden variety restaurant. The only time I really go out to eat is Chipotle or a Ruth's Chris. You go to Ruth's Chris, you go to a hundreds of dollars meal, you send it back. And I thought they handled it great. And the only issue is everybody is an idiot. Driving was ridiculous. Like people without their lights on, people speeding, like just being
And when
stupid.
were you were up there at night, or like
We
when
were up
were
there
you...
at 4:00 in the afternoon, and we were driving home around 6.
Yeah, so the sun it was mostly dark out at that point.
It was mostly dark on the way home.
Yeah,
and it's so many idiots.
Yeah, and that's the problem is that, you know, if you take the Park City equation out of it for a second, like just generally, like people aren't great drivers. But then when you're talking about driving the mountain road and like, you know, it's dark out and it's winter and, you know, like people just aren't respectful of the situation. And that's what makes it hard is like, you know, I'm not so fearful of getting into some horrible accident. I try not to live life in fear. Like, oh man, if we go out, we're going to I try not to do that. But I will say that I just don't enjoy the interaction you have with people generally. Like, I'm glad to hear the general manager treated you well and you had a great experience, but the other customers, the people you walk around in Park City, like it's just other people in humanity just generally are not great on New Year's Eve. And that's why I don't go out.
And I also look at the situation in New Orleans and this thing at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. It all adds up to, I don't know what the incentive is to go out.
Yeah.
Like we were watching Times Square and I'm like, there ain't a chance in the world
that
I'm going to Times Square on New Year's Eve. And call me scared, whatever Danny Downer, whatever you want.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but it's reality.
Yes.
Yes. It is sad. I don't think it's safe to gather en masse in this country right now.
In public.
And that's in public.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I feel that way and I wish I didn't, but I've never been a big go out on New Year's Eve guy.
Right.
I'm not somebody that drinks very often, rarely, if ever. I'm not somebody that revels in big groups. Like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I pretty much stayed home, but
yeah,
we had a couple of bad dining experiences on our 2-week gallivant around the country.
We did.
The situation we went to Mastro's in Laguna Beach, and the service was just okay. It wasn't great. It's just odd to me. My wife took me to this Cuban place. It's the best meal I had on that trip, I think. Mm-hmm. Oh no, Nora's in Las Vegas. I lied. Nora's Italian in Las Vegas. Stupid good.
Yeah.
Stupid good.
What did you have?
I had ravioli that was amazing as an appetizer. I also had
chicken parmesan.
Chicken parmesan. I said to the guy, chicken parm or lasagna. He goes, don't get our lasagna. Straight up said it's not good lasagna. Don't get our lasagna. Chicken parm was amazing. Everything was.
I appreciate when wait staff is like that. Like you ask them, hey, what should I get? And they're like, don't get this.
Yeah.
So you can, I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, it was really. Nora's in Las Vegas is tremendous.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Good to see you, friends. Appreciate being back. Thanks for watching the show. Please make sure you hit the like button on the way out the door. If you're on Twitter, Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, all of our platforms, please come to YouTube, hit subscribe, give our video a like. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being back. We'll be back tomorrow. Full recap of Georgia, Notre Dame. Lots of NFL as well. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.